A2HH Live. Coop is in the building. Welcoming everybody into the room. We're going to be talking about Nas' King Disease 2. And for the people who are probably going to be listening to this a day later on Facebook, make sure you go onto our YouTube channel, According to Hip Hop, so you can go ahead and subscribe and catch the live and really get in the room while we're going back and forth talking about this, man. How you doing, sir?
Doing great.
Good, good, good.
Look, hold on real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Crafts by Cooper up and open for business.
That's what's up. Well,
Yeah.
you know what?
Looked out my yesterday.
I hear that, man. Get your grind on, sir. And
Right.
Nas just dropped King's Disease 2. We've been talking about it all day. Earlier, we did a live and we, broke down one of the songs on there. One of the songs that was highly anticipated. And the rest of the album is awesome. I must say, just to start off this conversation, I think it is album of the year so far, hip hop. I know, and before this, we were talking about the Tyler album. We were talking about the Isaiah Rashad album, but I think this has taken over for that. And I would like to know, everyone in the room, what's your favorite song on the album? And Coop, what is your favorite song on the album? And yes, we must cheers to this. Let me pour me up a drink too while you're talking about that. Go ahead. What's your
It's
favorite
rare that I
song?
even have time to enjoy like anything out my wine collection. I broke something out today. Most of the time when I get to enjoy something, it's usually on a Friday with you. So
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
I broke out a nice little cab. So the mark of a really great album, Mike, is it has you arguing about what your favorite song is. And so I still haven't figured out what my favorite song is. So I'm going to try to highlight the 5 that I kind of like was impressed upon the most.
We got Store Run in the chat.
Store Run is probably right up there. If I was probably having to pick one, if I was pressed to pick one, it would probably be Store Run. Mike, the first 2 songs that start off the album, Mike, The Pressure and Death Row East.
I like Death Row East. I think it's a bit of a history lesson too. It's necessary. It's one of those things that Nas opens up a door on some things that have never been addressed. I didn't love the production on that song in particular, but I love the production throughout the whole effort.
Yeah. One of my notes is that we're gonna talk about Hit Boy.
Okay.
We're gonna do more than just kind of gloss over that. We kind of need to talk about it.
Oh, we got to talk about Hit Boy. He did an amazing job.
Yeah, he did. Nobody in Moments.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and also Mike, towards the end, My Bible, Count Me In. Like the whole, like you said, Mike, the project is stellar. It's the album of the year. I mean, like I said, Mike. I mean, for me today, the question is this album a classic, and is it a top 5 Nas album? That's how great the album is. I'm clear of that after listening to it today. Because here's what happened today, Mike, and I'm going to tell you what, this has only happened to me with a few albums in the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you those albums right now. Those albums were Daytona, Pray for Paris, and Alfredo, where it kept on playing and I kept on letting it play. That happened today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very mature album. Low 74 says this is a mature album. Nas and Hit Boy are dope together. They really are. I want to speak about Hit Boy and I want to speak about the combination of Nas as well. We're going to talk about that throughout the show. But I think that this is the most comfortable I've heard Nas on the mic. I'm honestly going to say since Illmatic. He's switching up his flow. He's changing with the times, and he sounds again comfortable. Like Nas has never sounded that comfortable with a more rapid flow, and he did that multiple times on this album. Off top, I think my favorite song is Moments. I like the way he approached some of these records, and like I said before we got on live, I think this is the most inspired effort I've heard from Nas in a minute. And regardless of, if we want to put it above or right there with a Stillmatic or It Was Written, I think time is going to help us know whether this is a classic or not and see how well it ages. I think it's going to age well. But one thing I will say, when you get somebody that's as talented as Nas to be inspired or make an effort that is inspired, that he's inspired by, it shows. And I think that it puts it above a lot of things. Because there were moments, I think we all agree that this album falls somewhere around Lost Tapes, Stillmatic range, right? So in those efforts, and Lost Tapes is a different situation because that's a lot of, stuff that didn't make things, and it was, cuts and stuff that, was on the chopping block or whatever, cutting room floor stuff. But I think with Stillmatic, you have those moments on that album where you could tell he was less inspired than others. You have different producers. With this one right here, and Hit Boy made this statement at their release party, it was just them two in the studio vibing. And it's a little different feel, and it reminds me again of what might have been going on in Illmatic, where he was in there with those titan of producers and they were vibing. Sounds like the first time Nas has been vibing on a full album end to end since then. And it, it's evident. Like it comes through the speakers.
I think a lot of what you're talking about has been by his own doing, though.
Yeah.
And so he's intentionally always been trying to switch it up and work with different people. And so sometimes it's had choppy results in terms of how the albums have turned out. But what I would, and here's what we're going to talk about, Mike, is we're going to do a catalog breakdown at this point.
Okay.
What you're going to find, Mike, is that, pretty much 2/3 of his projects are somewhere in the good, the great, the classic range. And that's why I tell you he's the greatest MC of all time. But on this project, I want to highlight a couple of things that you circled around, because you brought up some things that were actually the first point that I have and the fourth point that I have. My first point, Mike, about this album is that he sounds three things. There's three C's. He sounds current, he sounds comfortable, he sounds classy. And right under that, I put he knows he's royalty. And here's what I mean when I'm saying he knows he's royalty, Mike. I've never really heard Nas talk his own shit until now, as in like quoting himself, like on the first track where he's saying God's son across the belly. And when he's saying the world is yours, Nas doesn't quote himself. He's talking his shit on this album. He knows he's in the zone again.
But you know what? You know where I think that comes from again? And I want to give Hit Boy that credit too. When you got younger people around you who remind you of what you mean to them and to, the culture and
Right.
what you meant to them coming up, you feel that. He might not get that same feeling from his peers. But when you're working with a young cat that's giving you that young energy, or a younger cat that's giving you that young energy and letting you know, like, yo, man, you that guy, man. I look up to you. Wow. You know what I mean? Like, that gives you that energy.
No, you're right. I want to bring up his delivery too, Mike. His delivery isn't just like great right now. His delivery is actually at its zenith. What he did delivery wise on 40 side and EPMD 2, like on back-to-back tracks, I don't think I've ever heard Nas switch up his flow like that on back-to-back songs on any album that you're gonna find from Nas.
Right.
Mike, like, period.
Yeah.
So like,
and you know what? To piggyback off of that, the lyrics didn't lack either. So it was like,
the lyrics,
yeah.
Mike, and the lyrics didn't lack. And truthfully, I mean, Mike, this dude right here, like on this album, broke out about like 6 or 7 different flow patterns.
So would you say that he's more versatile? Would you say he's more versatile right now than he was on the Stillmatic album? Because we were talking about that offline.
Yes. I mean, I don't think the home runs on here are the home runs like Stillmatic, so I would still put Stillmatic ahead, because, man, when he hits the mark on Stillmatic, it's just like Mike, he has those can't nobody rap like that moments on Stillmatic. And there's like, that guy is still present on this album, but part of it is just the total package is so well put together, a la Biggie, actually, Mike. It's like, no, he's great at everything now, Mike. One of the things that struck me about this album is how frighteningly good he's gotten at hooks on the low.
Yeah. I was thinking about that too when I was listening to, I think it was Brunch on Sundays. Um,
Right.
yeah, I mean, moments again, for me, I love the way he approached that. But I think, as far as like, what's the word I'm looking for? More so giving him style points, let's say, like some of the most surprising moments on the album. I'm gonna run with YKTV, and
That's what.
I think that's
So
usually when you hear a Nas quote unquote banger, and let's go back to Life is Good, like Summer on Smash, they sound very calculated and robotic to a sense. This
yes,
flowed, and this sounded like, once again, sounded like a record he wanted to make. And I'm gonna go back to Hit Boy. I think that's like when you're hanging around Young Energy and they out there kicking it and really legit out here, you naturally make those records. You're inspired. Like this sounds like an inspired album, like from end to end. He made songs that he wanted to make. And I think we talked about this offline too. I think it really helps that his business ventures and life outside of music are going so financially well that he can really sit back and just chill when it comes to the studio. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to actually creating, you're relaxed, and he sounds relaxed. He sounds comfortable, and I love it.
I want to get into the lifestyle part of it in a second, and that is
Hmm.
part of it because the lifestyle part of it is contributing to the music, and not just in the manner that you're talking
Right.
about, but in that manner as well. But you circled on another one of my notes, one of my many notes, Mike, is that what's really remarkably happened with these last two projects, and it was kind of like at like a mid to hot temperature, but it's definitely on hot on King's Disease.
Hmm.
Nas sounds great on current beats with current artists.
It didn't sound
One of
like
my
a
notes.
stretch to have A Boogie and YG on there. They actually sounded good together.
It sounded good.
Let me get
So,
to the comments real quick. I'm gonna let you finish. Low 74 said for Nas to be 48 next month, and he rhymes and flows still at that level at this age. It's like he's aging like fine wine. Stewart 1000 says Nas has solidified his
what kind of
spot as the GOAT with KD 2. 2 to 5 is open for discussion. If we're being honest, this is his best full album since Illmatic. See, I thought I was jumping off the bridge by saying that, but I feel that. But go ahead.
so we're gonna get in. We're gonna get into all of that. That's why I said
Hmm.
we're gonna talk about his catalog, and I'm gonna tell you why I have it placed where it's placed because this album is so good, Mike, that I had to start pulling up his catalog and going song for song with it against his best shit. So like Illmatic's out of the conversation. What you all are gonna find is even if you it is more full than it was written. If you feel that way, you might time might prove you to be right. But song for song, it's not better. If you include Silent Murder, it's a murder.
I'm fine with that. But you know what? It's like they were saying,
But
it's
Stillmatic,
impressive.
but Stillmatic, but Stillmatic and Godson and Lost Tapes are conversations. And when you're saying that, that means you're talking about this album as a classic.
Listen, with Stillmatic coming at the point that it came at, and I've always said Nas is best with his back against the wall, right? Stillmatic was a response. And it was a response to a lot that was coming at him at the moment, and he put all into that, which was impressive. This right here is not only is it this far into your career, but it's in to a point in your career where there's no pressure. You know what I'm saying?
So,
And I think
so,
that's
so, so,
impressive. Like he's
so
relaxed.
no, Mike. Here's the most impressive thing about what just occurred today with this album. In reference just to his catalog, we have to compare it to stuff that got made 20 years prior. And
Exactly.
that would be Illmatic, It Was Written, Lost Tapes, Stillmatic, Godson. Like all that stuff is pretty much 20 years old except Godson, I think, right? And
Yeah.
Godson
I mean
about to be 20
Godson will
years
be
old.
20 next year, yeah.
Right. So the fact that he pulled that feat off just on degree of difficulty alone, that's what
Exactly.
I'm saying, Mike. That's greatest MC of all time type shit because
It
no
is.
greatest MC of all time has ever done that. Nobody that's ever been in the conversation with him has ever pulled off what he just pulled off today. This is like Mike, I told you, this is one of those deal closer type of things, unless like because here's what I want to say, and here was my analogy after listening to King's Disease 2 a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a tennis analogy. King's Disease 1, Mike, was like the Wimbledon practice tennis court for Nas and Hit Boy. Like they went in there together, they hit the ball around,
right,
and they figured out what worked together. King's Disease 2 is Nas and Hit Boy on center court. And what you're finding about them on center court together is that they do the old and the new well. Like they serve and volley and they hit from the baseline well together. And it's like a beautiful game the way they just played this together. And I'm going to tell you what makes it work that nobody's talking about with this album. And here's what I mean. This is the best production job of Hit Boy's life.
You know what? It's one of the best production jobs of Nas's career, too. We're not just going to,
Yeah. No. I'm saying that to give Boys. No, I'm saying that to give Hit Boy some flowers, Mike. Because what I'm saying is that this. I just said this is a deal closer for Nas in the greatest of all time conversation too. So like I'm giving Hit Boy the same run I just gave Nas because Hit Boy has something to do with that production wise. And I'm going to tell you the number one thing he did that nobody's talking about, and it's not about the currency. And here's what about keeping it old, Mike. There's a lot of beat breaks on this fucking album.
I was just about to go there. Nas
does best.
I was just about to go there.
Pocket, right? He got in Nas's pocket right in front of us, and nobody's talking about it. So we about to talk about it.
No, but it's crazy you said that.
This album got a bunch of beat breaks on it, Mike. What did I tell you?
No. It's crazy because I was just about to go to that point. I was about to say Hit Boy must be listening to the show because he hit them with a whole bunch of beat breaks, and I think I recognized that around Death Row East, and I was like, oh yeah, Nas raps the best over beat breaks, and he found a way to use the beat breaks as foundation, and he modernized the instrumentation around it.
That's the masterful job that he did.
Yeah, he did.
Nobody's talking about everybody. I hope you understand these are beat breaks, and that's why Nas sounds so great on these tracks. Because who's the greatest beat break rapper of all time? That guy.
Shout out to Mark Wright in the building. Mark says Nas is officially the GOAT. Best catalog in hip hop. Escobar season has returned back to back. Yes, back to back championships for Nas, I would say, or maybe a deep playoff run and a championship, shall I say? We got Low 78. He said, "I feel that Life is Good album was fire. Life is Good. To point this out, it was 9 years ago. You know what I'm saying?
And Life is Good is not fire. It's just good. Life is Good is good. That's why I'm saying. So, Mike, when we talk about Nas's catalog in a second, I want to talk about it realistically because some people have some stuff rated too high, and some of the stuff is too low. And hopefully with King's Disease 2, you'll see the difference. So I've heard too many people say today that this is like the Life is Good. I'm like, man, this is beyond Life is Good. Like this album is more comparably. Like in terms of the diversity, his flow, and the greatness of the songs, this is more like Stillmatic than Life is Good. Like this was better than Life is Good after like track 5, Mike.
I think what's very difficult for people to grasp, especially in hip hop and just music in general, when somebody's this deep in their career, it's tough for people to compare them to albums that happened in their prime. But if we can take out the ageism, the timeism, and just how we felt in 2001 when these albums came out and just listen to the music, I'm sorry. I hate to sound like I'm jumping off the bridge and being a prisoner of the moment, but I think this album is actually better than Stillmatic. I do. I think it's a easy listening, right?
Here's the problem. No, Mike, I'm going to tell you the problem with putting this album up against Stillmatic, and It Was Written in particular.
What's that?
There's too many haymakers on there, and so they're going to lose the overall because out of 15, 16 songs, like It Was Written is 13 songs if you take away the intro, and Stillmatic, I believe, is 16. And so that would put it on par. Like Mike, Stillmatic's going to win, and mostly about those first 10 songs, because on those first 10 songs, Stillmatic's going to win about 7 of those. So that already puts it halfway away. And
okay, the haymakers on Stillmatic, we got
It Was Written up against this. It's like the message is better than the pressure. Is Street Dreams better than Death Row East? Like Mike, I gave you Power and 40 Sides, not a conversation. Watch Them Niggas actually is better than EPMD2. Take It in Blood is better than Rare. Mike, are we putting Silent Murder in here where it originally went against YKTV? Or like what we doing? That's what I'm saying. It's
No,
like
I
it's not
feel
going
you.
to win. So Mike, so the album might be a classic, but what I might be saying is how we need to rate things properly. Y'all have some of Nas's classics understated and some of his mid-level stuff overstated. And King's Disease hopefully will like appropriate all this. Stillmatic and It Was Written is better than all of y'all have ever really thought it really is. And Life is Good and like stuff like that isn't as great as y'all thought it was. And King's Disease 2 is the proof because it's a good barometer.
I think for the type of artist that Nas is, and like I said, at the stage in his career that he's in, is it fair to say that home runs at this stage in his career are different than home runs in the '90s? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right,
who's to
this
say
album
that a
has home
record?
runs, Mike. But this
Who?
album has home runs.
I was
Mike,
gonna
The Fresh
say
Prince, Death Row East. Like Mike, I want to talk about Nobody because I mean, can we talk about
nobody
Lauren
is a
Forster?
home run. You got Lauryn
That's
Hill
what I'm about
rhyming
to say.
again, and not only just
Mike,
rhyming again, but she's explaining why she stepped away from the game.
Mike, isn't this the verse of the year so far?
Lauren's verse?
Yes.
I think it could
Is
be.
it?
I think it's definitely in the
No, Mike.
conversation.
So Mike, I had a conversation with myself. I had a by myself meeting. You know, like Capadonna said,
Mm-hmm.
every evening I have a by myself meeting. I had a by myself meeting, Mike, and I thought to myself, have I heard a better verse than that this year that provides like the lyricism and introspectiveness and I thought to myself, no. So she might have just delivered the verse of the year on the album of the year. It's a wonderful, masterful, gorgeous, brilliant song. I don't have enough like adjectives to describe how like of a home run that song is. The only thing that I'm going to quibble with you about, Mike, is that she made the whole comment, I'm out here saving souls and you complaining about my lateness.
You didn't like that line?
No, Mike, I didn't like that line. And I'm going to tell you why I didn't like that line. First of all, I'll be honest, Mike, I done wrote whole articles about it. I've been one of those people complaining about the lateness, and I'm going to tell you why. Mike, we're not going to keep on talking about practice again, are we? You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, okay, so you're talking about your lateness, and it's like you're contextualizing things introspectively. Contextualize the many, 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 many times you showed up 3 to 4, 5 hours late. It's not like you showed up 30 minutes late. And so at that point, it's like a disrespect. So I would have preferred that she just owed up with the in-depthness that she did about everything else, about the lateness, because here was always my feeling about the lateness. Oh, you acting like you Prince or Michael Jackson or Stevie Wonder, and you didn't make Purple Rain or Thriller or Songs in the Key of Life either. As good as the miseducation is. And so like you got levels too. So I don't know who you think you are. Like I wait 3-4 hours for Prince or Michael Jackson. Waiting 3-4 hours for you, like it better be glorious. And here's what really happened. You were late and it wasn't glorious.
You know what? To piggyback off of that, Prince and Michael didn't make you wait like that anyway.
No apologies,
And Stevie,
Mike.
and
I bring
Stevie,
them up.
no,
Mike,
I'm just saying, no, and Stevie did Songs in the Key of Life 3-4 times over. You know what I'm saying? So it's like no one's above the fans.
Mike,
No.
I bring this up because they have a reputation not only for being great on albums and great live, but also for being on time and never disappointing with
And you
the
know
show.
what? I agree with you on this because at the end of the day, and I love Lauryn Hill. I love Lauryn Hill, but
I love you, but don't talk
we
that.
have to respect the fans, and all that other stuff is industry stuff, right? But when it comes to the shows, that's a relationship between you and your fans. And when you waste people's time, I've always been taught, when you waste people's time, it's the most disrespectful thing you can do. You can't get time back. So you're basically saying that your time is much more valuable than mine. And I think one of the worst things she did, if we want to talk about that live performance thing, and I want to get on this soapbox, is when it was out here in Atlanta. It was Chastain Park, and see, Chastain had to close at 10 o'clock. The show was supposed to start at 8. You show up at like 9:15, and this thing gets shut down because it's like a 30-minute show, and that's not fair to the people who paid tickets. That's just bottom line.
Mike, I'm talking because I'm part of those horror stories of the shows down here, all of them.
Yeah.
Hello?
But
Yeah.
yeah, to downplay that, I do think that is disrespectful to the
I
fans.
testify to the weight and to the show. And here's what I bring up, like the whole Prince and Michael Jackson thing. Not only did they not make you wait, but it's like you're not them on stage. It's like Mike, you and I, how many times behind the scenes do you and I have conversations about how you got to see the Bad tour when you were a kid, and I got to see the Love Sexy tour when I was a kid, and how it stayed with us. And it's like they weren't late for those shows, and we remember them even as kids. That's how great the shows were. It's like respect the game.
I mean, we just saw Big Daddy Kane and KRS-One perform their ass off, and Rakim too. And everybody hit the stage in a timely manner because the venue had to close at a certain time. And yeah, no one's bigger than the music. No one's bigger than the fans. So I do totally agree with you in the fact that
Yeah.
that wasn't cool to downplay the
Yeah,
fans in that
it's the
way.
way she downplayed it. She kind of slid it in. I'm saving souls. You out here complaining about my lateness. It's like, nah, we complaining about your lateness. You've been
Who's
super late,
complaining?
and the shows wasn't that dope.
Who's
So,
complaining? The people who actually bought your tickets, your fans. That
right.
yeah, that shouldn't have been said. Shout out
Like
to
I
everybody
had
coming
people,
in the room.
I
We
had
want
like
to
I know people that loved her that was like in tears at them shows about how late she was. You feel me? Like, don't do that.
Yo, man, welcome to everybody in the room. We're actually talking about King's Disease 2, and we would love for you to drop your favorite song in the chat. I got the track list up here. But yeah, man, I'm leaning towards Moments and Story Run. I like the way he approached Story Run. And you know what? With his career going the way that it is right now, he seemed extremely relatable. You know what I'm saying? Because we're talking about super deal. Because I didn't like that. I understand Sorry Not Sorry was with him and Jay, and I know it was kind of like some billionaire talk, but I really didn't like the Scarface cryptocurrency line and all that. And I think he saw the feedback from that. Not me in particular, but just what people were saying in general. And he took a step back and clearly was able to make a very relatable effort. And it sounded like a lot of these songs were recorded recently, because I know in Moments he even shouted out Biz Markie. Biz Markie died, rest in peace, about a week and a half ago. And Store Run, rest in peace DMX and all of that. So I think a lot of these songs are very, very current.
No, I agree, Mike. Like you're
It's
absolutely right.
impressive, man.
Like that's what I mean. He sounds current, comfortable, and classy. And so I want to speak to something, and I hate to do this because his main competition and contemporary in the GOAT conversation is usually, of course, who. And so I'm going to tell you something that's kind of happened right in front of us that we didn't realize, and I'm just going to speak to it briefly, and then we're just going to move on.
Mm-hmm.
Nas's life is more entertaining than Jay's life because Nas isn't married with kids right now.
That's true. No, you know what? I was thinking that. I wasn't gonna say it, but you're right.
What's the demographic for most hip hop black males? It's 18 to 35. Nas is literally out here living these dudes' fantasy. He's dressing in the flyest clothes, with the flyest women, with the most money at the best restaurants, investing. He's popping up everywhere, Mike. Jay is literally at home with the kids running the business from home. I mean, not like that, Mike, but kind of like that.
No, you're right.
And it doesn't matter. And Mike, when that's going down and your contemporary is out there like that, it doesn't matter how bad or who or how it doesn't matter how much she worked. Mike, it don't matter. Your life's not the same. It's just more boring.
And honestly, that was kind of my issue with 444. It's not a quote unquote bad album. I just wasn't interested, and it's sad to say that, but it's because of what Jay has given us before. Like the level of bravado before, when you're talking about the stuff he's talking about on 444, it just doesn't match that level of bravado, excuse me. But Nas is able to continue to do that.
Like, think about it. Nas is the one with hundreds of millions of dollars that gets to spend it like a bachelor. Jay has to spend it like a husband.
Yeah, and we know who his wife is too. Yeah.
It's different.
It's very different.
There ain't no buying no $2 million art pieces without talking to B.
No, it's the truth. It's the truth.
No, I'm being serious. That's what marriage entails. You don't do stuff like that without having those conversations. So what you hear from Nas musically is a dude that's moving at free will when he wants and how he wants. Yeah. Like he travels more, he invests more. You see him at more endeavors. You see him popping up more. Life is more fun for him right now.
He's even able to hang out with his young producer Hit Boy in a way that a married man wouldn't be able to.
It's Nas. So like he's a legend and he's single. He's active the last 4 or 5 years. You know, I want to thank him for being as active and great as he's been while we've been doing this podcast, because I've been saying he's the greatest of all time for a long time.
You know, it's interesting though, like the the reasons why I've always put, you know, Jay ahead of him, he's kind of flipping that script, you know, and it's like Jay has always been.
He's the more entertaining guy right now. He's making the more fun like records that like the dudes from the hip hop crowd are relating to.
Yeah, Jay's always been the more versatile one, right? And he's always been able to change with the times and adapt with the times more. And in the past 4 years, we're seeing Nas drop a Nasir, you know, Lost Tapes 2, that was cool, you know, here and there. And then he dropped King's Disease. It was a game changer because we were all flipped out in the fact that he was letting Hit Boy do the whole album. And then now he drops this. And it's like they found their groove. I honestly, and I know I was talking down on the collaboration last week or 2 weeks ago. I want to hear them do another album together. Point blank, period. I'm cool with it. I mean, I don't think they should make King's Disease 3.
I'm cool with Nas and Hit Boy getting together old school style and doing a King's Disease series at this point. Because, I mean, if you actually go, if you go line the tracks up that they've done together, like, they ain't missed much. They like when I mean they ain't missed much, they like Steph Curry, James Harden, KD from the line with it, like 88, 89, 90%.
Let's talk about Jay-Z real quick, right? I think the last album that he made that kind of shook things up, where it was just him, was the Blueprint 3, and that was in 2009.
That's in my notes, Mike. That was the last album that he made.
So where there were hits and all that.
Mike, I always felt like the Blueprint 3 and Life is Good were like the grown man, rich nigga rapper template albums.
Right. This is taking that to a whole nother level.
That's what I'm saying with King's Disease and now King's Disease 2. Like, Nas has significantly upped that ante. That changes the course of the conversation. And so it's like, I kind of wanted to talk about, because I knew people were going to do this about like with, I didn't know. How about this, Mike? One of the things that I wrote down with King's Disease is I was like, people going to have this somewhere between second and sixth. You know, because I know how Nas fans are. I'm like, ain't no telling which group of people we gonna get tonight and where they gonna place it. It's like, I don't know where they're gonna place it. And that's why I had it lined up against some of his stuff. So like, this is what I mean about respectfully speaking. So let's start with this. Do you want to start like with his catalog, or do you want to start comparing albums?
Well, hold on. Let me go to the chat real quick before we get to that. Andre Shashir, shout out to Andre, man, in the building. Right. He said, I'm glad that he stopped. He left Salam Remy alone. He made you look, but other than that, Salam. No, but he said Salam Remy made you look, but other than that, his beat sounded outdated. I think that's something that you have to do. I think Jay-Z did that as well. There was a period he was working with certain producers, even the great stuff that Just made for Jay. I think Just Blaze probably made some of Jay-Z's strongest songs, but when Just's style got outdated and didn't update, Jay left him alone. It's what you have to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, the reason why he was able to continue to work with Kanye, because Kanye as a producer was continuously evolving. You have to do that. And that's just what Nas has done over his career. And, you know, he's found magic with Hit Boy. You're about to rank Nas's album from top to bottom. Where do y'all think King's Disease 2 falls? And I'm going to let you take it away. Go ahead.
So I'm not going to rank them.
Okay.
So much as I think, because he has so many albums, Mike. Let's tally up the albums that he has. Because I told you, Mike, are we counting? I was meaning to hit you back. Are we counting The Firm too? Because you said we're counting Distant Relatives. Are we counting The Firm too?
Might as well count The Firm. It falls somewhere near the bottom, I'm sure. But might as well.
It's closer to the middle than the bottom than you might think, because he's made so many records. So if you include The Firm and Distant Relatives, Mike, he's made 4, 6, 9, 12. 14, 15. That's 17 projects he's been a part of if you count the Lost Tapes series now with King's Disease 2, Mike.
Wow.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of full-length releases, and only 2 of these projects are group projects per se. So he has officially like 15 full-length releases. 2 of those releases are the Lost Tapes. So there's like true 13 solo albums, 2 throwaway like type of project type of albums, and then 2 like group albums. So
I think currently Nas is the greatest MC of all time.
Right. So, but here's why, Mike. So let's go to the classic.
Mm-hmm.
Illmatic, It Was Written, Stillmatic, and The Lost Tapes. We're arguing about King's Disease 2 being in that bracket. Mike, if that's the case, that would give him one for the thumb. Ain't nobody walking around with 5 classic albums, Mike, except for Nas. If that's the case, that's like, am I missing something?
I don't believe all of those are classics per
Mike,
se, but
there's no way that this is what I'm saying.
I don't believe that. You know what I'll say, man, and I know I've said this before. To me, he's a phenomenal MC on It Was Written. It's hard for me to sit here and say It Was Written's classic.
Mike, when the worst songs on your album are Watch Them Niggas and According to Y'all, Nas Is Coming, that's a classic album, Mike. Those are the bad songs? Mike, go to the Blueprint. Go to the Blueprint and go put it up against It Was Written. And say that, because I know you think the Blueprint is classic. It's like song for song, the Blueprint's not better than It Was Written.
Yes, it is. Come on now.
No, it's not. Not song for song, Mike.
Lyrically, it might not be, but come on, man. Song for song, the Blueprint's better.
Mike, keep blowing them. Mike, the message I gave you, power, take it in blood, silent murder. He taking the first half of the album right there, Mike. That's without affirmative action. The setup, shootouts, live nigga rap. No. That's what I'm saying. It was written in Stillmatic. This is exactly what I'm talking about how King's Disease 2 is a good reference point. It was written in Stillmatic.
Well, everybody in the chat is saying It Was Written's a classic. I'm outvoted, but I'll give you guys that because he was phenomenal.
The level of it though, Illmatic is definitely like the bona fide. But what I'm saying is It Was Written in Stillmatic and the Lost Tapes are more classic than people are really giving it credit for. And Life Is Good and God's Son and I Am aren't quite as great as you think they are. God's Son is great, but Life Is Good and I Am are just good.
I Am didn't age well. And God's Son, once again, is one of those albums that has huge highs. And
the highs are high,
the highs are super high, but the lows are very, very average. So
like when you put King's Disease 2 up against God's Son, like after Get Down, It Made You Look, and Last Real Nigga Alive, like when you get done with that first 4, like, the Cross, Death Row East is better than the Cross, but after that, Mike, it's like, God's Son ain't really standing next to King's Disease 2 that well, like off rip, and that's knowing Get Down and Made You Look are on there.
I think the conversation might be Lost Tapes and
Mike, my conversation was Stillmatic, Lost Tapes, King's Disease 2, because I don't think that this album is better than It Was Written, because It Was Written highs were too high.
I'm with you on that. I'm with you. The highs are too high.
It Was Written too. Like, there's nothing fucking with I Gave You Power, Silent Murder, Take It in Blood, the setup, shootouts. Like, what we talking about? The message.
That's fine.
That's talking about. Like
that's fine. I'm with
this
that.
This album might be a classic, but that's what I'm saying. Y'all might have underrated his other classic shit.
Okay, that's fine. I'm with that. Because It Was Written, it's just tough to contend with the MC that he was on that album, period.
Being on there so brutal, Mike, it's like, no, when you go listen to those records, it's like, no, that record's better. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I forgot how.
All right, let's go to Stillmatic, though. Do you think that Stillmatic is definitively better than this album? Because I think that Stillmatic was always his third best, right?
Okay, so here's a conclusion that I came to today, and this was a own personal conclusion. I always had Stillmatic at number 4 and Lost Tapes at number 3, but I had to make my own admission today. I listened to the stuff on Stillmatic more than I listened to the stuff on the Lost Tapes. Mike, outside of Do Rags, You Gotta Love It, and Blaze of 50, I don't listen to the stuff on the Lost Tapes in Purple. I don't listen to the stuff on Lost Tapes the way I listen to the stuff on Stillmatic. It doesn't put me in that classic state the way Stillmatic does. In the sense of when I hear a record from there, it makes me want to hear the other records on there necessarily.
Sometimes I think the Lost Tapes lacked in production. I mean, Drunk by Myself was cool to me too. Fetus was cool to me too.
I love but see, that's what I'm saying. Those are brilliant songs. But sometimes when you hear those songs by themselves, you're just cool with hearing those songs, and then you might hear something on Stillmatic. Like when I hear the intro to Stillmatic, when it comes up randomly, it makes me want to listen to Stillmatic every time because that intro is like one of the best intros ever.
Listen, I love the Lost Tapes, but I don't think it's a classic. Because again, I don't think it has the replay value.
Don't start a fight with the Nas fans. And
I'm just saying, I think that
Mike, and I'm gonna tell you why it's a classic, because not only is it better
Papa
than
was a player's
actual. No. It's better than most people's actual albums, Mike. But there really isn't a bad song on the Lost Tapes, and that's kind of what makes it a classic. Where's the whack song? Black
No,
Zombies,
no,
like Black Zombies is not whack. There's nothing really bad on
it's
the
a
Lost Tapes.
straight line though. But when you're saying that nothing's really
When you
bad,
make
that
an
doesn't
album
make
full of
something a
dope
classic
records,
though,
Mike, and
Coop.
you're Mike, when you make an album full of dope records and the person making the album full of dope records is Nas and his prime, even when the songs are dope and they're throwaways, is classic. Mike, Blaze of 50 is a classic story. Blaze of 50 is one of the reasons why I think Nas is the greatest storyteller of all time. He told two different stories in one song on Blaze of 50.
I love Blazer 50. I was listening to Blazer 50 before Lost Tapes even came out on repeat.
That's Mike. That's because it's part of the real version of I Am, just like Drunk by Myself and Fetus and Project Window.
Well, you called it, man. The Nas fans are killing me about me saying Lost Tapes not classic.
I
Okay,
told you not
I'm
to do
outvoted
that,
again. So all right, so
Mike,
Nas
I told you
has
not to do that. So Nas has four classics.
that's
right
four
now.
classes. We got Illmatic. It was written.
Tell Mike that Nas
Stillmatic.
has four classics. Fans tell Mike Nas has four classics.
Okay.
Illmatic, It Was Written, Stillmatic, and the Lost Tapes. This, if it's in a conversation with the other three classics outside of Illmatic, what does that make it? That makes this classic number 5. Tell me how many solo MCs are walking around with 5 solo classic rap albums again.
Let's see. We got Reasonable Doubt. We got Reasonable Doubt. We got The Blueprint. We got the Black Album. We got Volume 2, and then it's getting shaky.
Mike, Volume 2.
Listen, bro.
That's what I'm
if
saying.
the
That's
Lost
what I'm
Tapes,
saying.
no.
That's
I'm not gonna let y'all do that. If Lost Tapes is a classic, Volume 2 is a classic. If we're gonna do that, we're talking Reservoir Dogs. We're talking about Hard Knock Life. We're talking about It's Alright. We're talking about Money Cash Hoes. Money Ain't a Thing. We're not gonna do that and say Lost Tapes is a classic and Volume 2 is not.
You know what, Mike? No, Mike.
We're not gonna do that.
Even though I think Volume 2 hasn't aged as well as the Lost Tapes, that's still Jay's biggest selling album today, Mike. There's still a lot of shit on there that I still love. Coming to Age 2 a week ago. Yeah. Hard Knock Life, there are classic singles on there. I still play Nigga What, Nigga Who, Money Cat. No. So Mike, I'm going to keep it fair, even if the Nas fans out there, that's what I mean. We're going to be objective today about this. If you want to say Volume 2 is a classic, I'm going to give you that, and that would give him 4. And so that's what I'm talking about. So that's why I told you.
And the only other one in question would be American Gangster.
Or Volume 1. I find Volume 1 and American Gangster to be comparable. Both with a couple of missteps, but very, very strong. But here's what I'm saying.
How many missteps did you think American Gangster had?
Ooh, Mike, I didn't love Hello Brooklyn. I never did. And
I didn't love Hello Brooklyn either. But I think Hello Brooklyn, if we're going to talk within a vacuum of things, is better than EPMD 2. Remix.
You might be right, Mike. I wasn't a fan on the latter half production-wise of that album. I wasn't a fan of Blue Magic like everybody else.
I love Blue Magic.
But Mike, some of my favorite Jay stuff is on there, like track 6, 7, 8, like Rock Boy, Sweet, I Know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like Party Life.
Track 9, no. He got in a nice little pocket right there, so I'm gonna give you that. But Mike,
people are saying American Gangster is a classic too.
But I feel I feel that way. That's not a classic. I feel that way about it. Like even the shit with Beanie Siegel. It's like I didn't love that track with Beanie Siegel. Neither did y'all. I love Say Hello.
Whoa! There are actors looking at themselves in the mirror backwards. Can't even face themselves. Don't feel no rappers. They're just weirdos. De Niro's in practice. So don't believe everything your earlobe captures. It's mostly backwards. It happens to be as accurate as me, and everything said in song you happen to see. Actually believe half of what you see. None of what you hear, even if it's spat by me. Stop it, man. Come on now.
No, Mike. It was cute when he did it over that happy ass beat that wasn't that good. That's what I'm talking about.
So hold on. It sounds like now the discussion is King's Disease 2 and American Gangster. If we want to be 100% honest.
Oh, Mike. I'm telling you right now, live. You don't want to line those tracks up.
I would love to line those up.
You don't want to do
that. If that is the discussion, yes. If that's the discussion.
Mike, I'm telling you, don't want to do that, Mike. Because first of all, like he losing the first 2, 3, 4 songs, like off rip.
Everybody in here is in agreement that American Gangster is a classic. So we talking about 5 on 5, really. And when you talk about
who said Volume 2 was a classic in the chat? You said Volume 2 was a classic. Who said in the chat Volume 2 was a classic?
I mean, you conceded to that when we start rattling off the hits.
I was conceding that to be nice, but that's only because I thought people actually knew what they were talking about.
But American Gangster is the one that everybody's saying is a classic as well. Do you guys feel like Volume 2 is a classic? Because we're talking about, again, Reservoir Dogs. We're talking about Hard Knock Life. We're talking about It's Alright. We're talking about Money Ain't a Thing. We're talking about, like you said, Jigga What, Jigga Who. We talk about
See,
Money Cash Hoes.
I
Come on now.
see, Mike. I told you this, Mike. I like Volume 1 more than American Gangster and Volume 2, really, because that's the J that I love. Imaginary Player, Streets is Watching, Friend of 498, A Million and One Questions, Rhyme No More, You Must Love Me, Where I'm From. That's the hoe that I love.
I
Like
feel
that
you,
on
but
American
you
Gangster.
know,
That on Volume 2,
we would be wrong to say that album's actually better.
That shit on Volume 2 to me, just now looking back on it, sounds a little dated. And some of that shit on the back end of American Gangster, the beats are just very, very happy, very, very syrupy, very, very soft.
I think American Gangster is better than King's Disease too. So
no, you don't. Like, you
I
can't
do,
say that.
and I like King's Disease too a lot. I do.
I mean, you can try to make it interesting, but this conversation's over, and I'm gonna tell you where this conversation's over.
Go. Is there Rock Boys on here? Did I miss the Rock Boys?
So Mike, let's say this. You want to know what? Let's just say this. Let's say that they're both walking around with 5 classics.
Okay.
Okay. Let's say that. Is that what we're saying?
That's fair. So. That's cool.
Because
again, like I said, to me, the one that's the breaker. If y'all want to say,
I knew all you little, I knew all the whole fans, all the little secret whole fans were gonna come out and defend him today, and it's cool.
No, but what I'm saying is, dude, if we're gonna say that the Lost Tapes is classic, and I'm fine with that. That shit has no big records on it, no records that ring anything. If we're gonna say that, how can we say Volume 2 is not a classic?
There's nothing that Jay does on Volume 2 that's more impressive than Do Rags or Blaze of 50. And you as somebody that knows the craft of
MC. Bro, come on, man. I mean, I get it, but there's nothing on the Lost Tapes that hits like Volume 2.
So Mike, so I kind of set you up. And this is why I said people need to understand there are levels to these classics, and I'm glad that you did that.
There are levels to these classics.
No. I agree. So I want you to understand. So, Mike, I want you to listen to what I keep on saying over and over again. Y'all have Nas's classics underrated, as in, like, no, if you want to call American Gangster in Volume 2 a classic, that's fine. But if you think American Gangster in Volume 2 or Stillmatic and the Lost Tapes, you out your fucking mind. That ain't the same level of classic.
Honestly, I would put Stillmatic.
The Black Album and the Blueprint and Reasonable Doubt. Now we talking same level. So Nas I think
the way this falls.
If they both have 5 classics, Nas got 4 high-level classics. Jay got 3.
Hold on. I think the way this falls is we're talking about
we're gonna get to the rest of this catalog.
Hold on. We're talking about the Black Album and Stillmatic. So I think the Black Album's better than Stillmatic.
Of course you do, Mike. You're a Jay fan.
I mean, I'm just a hip hop fan. I love them both, and I conceded.
Moment of clarity. Yeah, of course you think that. It's nice.
Moment of Clarity's trash, but that's because of Eminem. Whatever.
That beat the December 4th ain't slapping like you think either, and some of that stuff
December
on there sounds
4th is
dated
dope.
too.
What are you talking about?
And some of that stuff sounds dated on there.
So you're telling me that there's a public service announcement on Stillmatic? Because I don't think there is.
Ooh.
It's not.
No. Public service announcement.
You think there's a 99 Problems on Stillmatic? Because it's not.
Hold on. First of all, I think. See, that all depends on how you want to weigh and scale things, because I could go back to you. Does Jay have anything like Rewind or One Mic on the Blueprint? Or on the Black Album? Hell no. So stop that. Stop that. Has Jay ever in his life rhymed the way that Nas is rhyming on What Goes Around on Stillmatic, which is like his 3rd or 4th best album? Don't do that. That's why I'm saying when y'all start having this Jay conversation about Nas, don't get it twisted. The reason Nas is better is, and this is what I mean, talking about King's Disease is the proof. This is the proof that Nas can do what Jay does. Jay still improved. He can't do that shit that Nas do. Jay can't do Rewind. He can't do What Goes Around. And he can't do back-to-back great albums at an old age because his old ass has it. Nas has.
We're getting off course. You're talking about the MC. I'm talking about the album, right?
Mike, this is what I'm talking about. At this point, Mike, the MC was already better, and now the albums are better. Illmatic, It Was Written, Stillmatic, Lost Tapes, King's Disease 2. That's your 5-pack. There go your classics, Mike. After that, I got Godson, King's Disease 1, I Am, Life is Good, The Firm, Nasir, Distant Relatives. Come on.
I want to ask the people in the chat. I want to ask the people in the chat.
The rest of the albums now and start listening to how the conversation sounds.
I want to ask the people in the chat. Distant Relatives or Watch the Throne?
Oh, they're going to say Watch the Throne.
I think Distance Relatives is brilliant, honestly.
I think
I would
Distant
have to
Relatives is
listen to
better
them
than
back to
Watch the
back.
Throne.
I'm not sure, to be perfectly honest. And I do think that there should be a post on According to Hip Hop with those 5 albums from each artist that we're talking about and see what the people think, because
No,
I think it gets
No,
really.
no, no, Mike. We 15, 17 albums in. We pulling out the whole shit. That's what I'm saying. You
Because what I
starting
want
off
to do.
strong, but
All
you
right,
easing
let's
in
get
the
those
back.
10. I don't want to interrupt you, but let's get those 10 and let's see how people put them in order. I think Illmatic is the best album of all 10, right?
Followed by Reasonable Doubt. That's one and two.
Exactly. Followed by Reasonable Doubt. And then I think we're going Blueprint
I think it
after
becomes
that.
about choice. But what I'm telling you is that song for song, like it would probably go. It was Mike. It would probably like for me, like all jokes aside, it would probably go Illmatic, Reasonable Doubt. It Was Written, Blueprint, Stillmatic, Black Album, and then I would go Lost Tapes, King's Disease 2. That's what I'm saying. That's me objectively speaking about it. I'm not saying it like Nas got it like easily. I'm saying this is like one of those deal breaker types of levels, because inserting this album in the top 5, oh, look at Nas's second 5 after his top 5 albums. Jay's next 5 don't match up to Nas's next 5. You want to run them down?
What's Nas's next 5?
I'm telling you right now. So
What's
if you love
Nas's
me, you
next
don't
5?
want to do this live.
Yeah, let's do this. Let's do this. What are Nas's next 5? Because we talking about GOAT shit. This is a GOAT conversation. And honestly, the GOAT shit has come down to Nas and Jay. I think Nas has it because of longevity and what he just recently put out. But let's not act like Jay can't trump that with one more dope ass album.
Yeah,
go for it though.
Probably not going to come. That's cool.
What's your next 5 from Nas? Give me your next
5. Mike, the next 5 are Godson, King's Disease, Life is Good, I Am, and Nasir.
Hold up.
Not necessarily in that order either, but like just, yeah.
Okay.
Because I probably have, if I was going in order, I would probably go, I would probably go I would probably go Godson, King's Disease, I Am, Life is Good, Nasir.
Okay.
Those would be the next 5. Give me Jay's next 5.
The next 5 I would go is Blueprint 3. I think we would go Volume 1. I'm going Dynasty.
And
no, Dynasty's hard. Don't do that.
Dynasty is not hard, Mike. This
Dynasty
can't be
hard.
This can't be Life and 1-900 Hustler are hard. Rest of that shit dated. Next.
Oh, Give It To Me's dated?
Hell yeah, that shit dated.
I would put, I would put
the
Dynasty. I would put the Dynasty up against I Am any day, and that's real.
And
I would
stop that. There's nothing like Mike. 3 words. Nas is.
I figured
life.
you were gonna say that. What next? What's after that? I would put This Can't Be Life up against Nas's Life.
Like, I don't even take that seriously that you said that. That's cool, Mike. That's cool. There's still New York State of Mind too, and Small World, and Favor for a Favor. Stop that. Next.
There's a lot of misses on there, and there's still Dr. Nog
No, this is on the
too.
Dynasty, like most of the album, Mike. But next,
The Blueprint 2.
Mike, if you play Give It, if you take and Give It To Me, Mike, give me Hate Me Now back.
Give It To Me's better than Hate Me Now.
They're both dated ass records.
They are. Well, no. Hate Me Now is dated. Give It To Me's not dated.
Mike, man,
it's
Hate Me
about
Now, Mike,
to go down.
Mike, Hate Me Now is the anthem when the super fly chicks walk in the club. Like if your woman really fine, that was her anthem. Hate Me Now. You know what I'm saying?
Ain't nobody playing Hate Me Now. Come on, man.
They are in their mind when they walk in the club, Mike. Whatever. Next.
Lex P is telling me to chill. They saying I'm off course. We need to write this down though, for real. I do think
Blueprint 3, Volume 1, The Dynasty. I'm on point, Mike, because I knew you were going to do this. Because guess what? After we do those 5, I got another 5 for you.
You got another 5?
Yeah, because guess how many projects Nas has released? That's what I'm saying. It's like you really want
to
keep on doing this, Mike. You're going to find out I'm about to pull your whole boys catalog out loud. So we have Blueprint 3, Volume 1, Dynasty. That's nice. Keep going. All
right. We got 444.
Mike, this is where the conversation starts ending, and we haven't even got to the next 5. Can we stop right there? Can we stop the bleeding right there?
You know what? People are saying Nas is winning, Mike. Yeah, it does appear that Nas is winning. Listen, Jay.
Mike,
are we counting Jay Electronica's album? Jeez.
Mike, I kept the Firm and Distant Relatives out of this. I haven't brought up Streets Disciple or Hip Hop Is Dead. I didn't like.
Listen, Streets Disciples trash. Now let's just keep it a
It's
buck.
not trash. It's got some stuff. It's too many songs on there for it to
I
be
love.
total.
Listen, I love Thief's theme, but after that, it's and the unauthorized biography of Rakim is, I don't know. But all right, listen.
His wisdom's name was Fifi.
Let me just say this, man. I know Jay-Z's watching the show. Jay, you're making me look bad right now, man.
No, Mike. You're not. He's not making you look bad. He's just not winning this race that he said you're starting off strong, but you're wheezing in the back. We're at album number 9. I gave you 10 Nas joints easy, and I got another 5 for you, and you're already giving me 4, which you already told me is uninspired and unentertaining. That's why I'm talking about this King's Disease 2 shit. Oh, it's a whole problem for him. He need a bunch
Jay, look.
Mike, he need a lot.
You're losing right now, man. I need you to drop the equivalent of King's Disease and King's Disease 2 in the next 2 years. They say Watch the Throne 2 is coming. I don't think that's a great idea. I think we need 2 Jay-Z albums, man, because right now the GOAT conversation is going to Nas. It just is what it is.
It is what it is at this point, Mike. He's the greatest of all time. Mike, Watch the Throne 2 coming. Kanye can't even get the solo project up, Mike.
Yeah, man, we've been waiting on that Kanye solo project for 2 weeks.
Time around, I was like, nah, he played me once. He don't get to play me twice. I said, this album not dropping. Where we at? We talking about Nas all night.
And in the midst of Kanye not dropping his album, Nas and Hit Boy just go in the studio with the 2 of them and crank out one of Nas's best albums, period. And really one of his best albums in the past 20 years. And it seems like in a short period of time.
Mike, I have to be honest with you. My immediate thoughts after, I listened to it late last night, but the full listen this morning, I was like, this is easily his best album since Godson. When did Godson come out?
That was 2002. I think it's his best album since Stillmatic. Or,
No. I said easily. So I'm not finished yet. I sat down and I did the rundown of Godson versus King's Disease 2 right after I realized that.
Go for it.
You want to hear it?
Yeah, I want to hear it.
Get Down's greater than the pressure. I think that's pretty easy, right?
Okay.
Death Row East is greater than the cross.
Okay.
That's pretty easy.
So we got 1-1.
I mean, I think we all know what record number 3 is and how that goes for any record up against that record. That's Made You Look. So 40 Sides taking that L.
Yeah.
Last Real Nigga Alive is better than EPMD 2, obviously, right? Right. So it's actually 3-1, right?
3-1 right now, Godson.
Right. Then watch what happened. Rare's better than Zone Out, isn't it?
Yep.
YKTV's better than Hey Nas. That's one of those big missteps.
Yep.
Mike, here's one of the unfortunate things. I Can is a classic. I think Store Run's one of those instant classics. I think most people are going to tell you Store Run's more of a core Nas joint and a better record than I Can, isn't it?
That's hard to say at the moment, but I'm with that. I'm not opposed to that.
I just fundamentally feel like Store Run's going to feel like it's part of more Nas's classic catalog than I Can is. I Can feels like one of his few hit singles.
Okay.
It just gets put in there because it's one of his few hit singles. It's not necessarily one of his best records.
Okay. That's King's Disease 2, 4 to Godson's 3. Now,
Mike, here's where it gets interesting, Mike. Book of Rhymes versus Moments, because I'm high on Moments, but Book of Rhymes is actually a highlight of Godson. I like that
Moments better than Book of Rhymes. Shout out to Alchemist anyway. Yeah.
I think Nas fans are going to argue with you about that. I put that as a draw, actually.
Okay, that's fine.
Mike, nobody's greater than Thug Mansion, though.
Yeah, nobody's way better than Thug Mansion.
Mastermind or No Phony Love, Mike? Which way would you go?
I like No Phony Love better. Wasn't a big fan of Mastermind.
I put that as a draw.
Okay.
Brunch on Sunday is better than Warrior Song.
Yep.
Count Me In is better than Revolutionary Warfare. Mike, Dance or Composure?
I like Composure better.
I put Composure too, Mike. That's unfortunate because Dance is a beautiful record. I had it as an equal first, and then I thought about it. I'm like, no, Composure's pretty dope. It's better. Mike, I put Heaven in My Bible as an equal.
Okay. That's fair.
And then Nas is good as the last record, but Mike, where are we right there when we stop?
You had a bunch of ties in there, but it looked like it was going to be damn near 8-5,
Right. So
something
if
like that.
Godson is usually the album that rounds out Nas's top five, and
Mm-hmm.
King's Disease 2 appears to be a couple steps above because it's like 8-5, and that's with a couple ties. So even if you were to lean the ties Godson's way, it would still probably lose. Which means this album's really, really great, which means no, the conversation is it better than Stillmatic or the Lost Tapes? As in, is it this his third, fourth, or fifth best effort? That's the real conversation.
It's a few people who disagree with some of the tracks in there. Revolutionary Warfare, Ken says is better. Do you guys think
Revolutionary Warfare
that?
with Lake? No, Count Me In's doper than that.
Do you
Like, I don't
guys
know what
think
y'all
that Godson is better than King's Disease 2, or you got King's Disease 2 over Godson? I just want to know.
Revolutionary Warfare was one of the mixtape joints too. I remember that floated around on the mixtapes a little bit with Lake. Yeah.
But, again, I'm giving super style points to the fact that, at this point in Nas's career.
Look at the degree of difficulty, Mike. Look at how old he is and how late in the game it is. We're comparing this album to Godson. Godson got made 19 years ago.
Yeah.
That's
impressive
that's the
alone.
equivalent. Like that's the equivalent of an athlete like that's an MVP caliber player, like their first 5, 6, 7 seasons, going back and becoming an MVP caliber player in like season number 20, 21, 22. That shit don't happen.
Yeah. And, we were just talking about Jadakiss in that light, and the fact that Jada went out there and did what he did in the verses and performed to that level this deep in his career. I mean, there's been a lot of shakeups in the top 10 for me.
No, Mike.
Go ahead and address that too, because you said Jadakiss was better than Ghostface.
No, I didn't say that. I just left Ghostface out. We're going to clear that up when we get to the next segment in a moment. But here's what I want to say that I did say about Jadakiss, and Nas kind of reminded everybody of that. Remember I just said that Jadakiss might be where the Titan list ends and the A list MC begins?
Right.
This is what I'm talking about. Look at what Kiss just did. Now look at what Nas just did. We're talking about top 10 to top 5 stuff versus GOAT conversation stuff. So while Kiss still got the verses and has been consistent all these years, we're talking about a man that's made Mike. If you count his quality albums, as in I have his stuff classified classic, great, and good. Let me tell you the stuff that I got under classic. Illmatic, it was written. Stillmatic, Lost Tapes, King's Disease 2. That's 5. Under great, Mike, I got Godson and King's Disease 1. That's 7, Mike. In the middle of great and good, I got I Am and Distant Relatives, Mike. All right? And then the good is Life is Good and Nasir. And then the end is Streets Disciple, The Firm, the Nigger album. The bad is Nostradamus, Hip Hop is Dead 2, and the Lost Tapes. But
hold on one second. I like what K. Thompson has to say here. He says King's Disease 2 is better because it has no skips. I think he's talking about better than Godson. And see, that's kind of how I feel about it in reference to Stillmatic. I get it. Home runs are home runs, but I guess it depends on what you're looking for in the MC. And I think as one of the things that, maybe because Illmatic started us off on this track with Nas, one of the things I love to hear from Nas is the fact that there's consistency on the album. I would rather hear a full-length, consistent, no-skip album from Nas than I would rather hear him have some home runs and some skips here and there, if that makes any sense.
So when you're saying some home runs, that's what I'm saying about Stillmatic. Stillmatic ain't some home runs.
Stillmatic has Braveheart Party. And for me, Braveheart Party takes your grade down. It just does.
No. It does. Just like EPMD should take this grade down. But Mike,
EPMD is way better than Braveheart Party. The only thing trash about EPMD is Eminem.
Mike, everything's better than Braveheart Party, Mike. But so Mike, I kind of seen the tone of the conversation early on in the show. That's why I was over here to the side. I was writing down the track listing to Stillmatic. So let's do Stillmatic. So
we're gonna do Stillmatic versus. Yeah, this is good. Let's do Stillmatic.
We're about to do it live. But before we do that, is everybody clear that first of all, like it was written as better than
King's Disease 2, yeah. I think we're all clear on that.
And also, too, so are we saying King's Disease 2 is better than Lost Tapes 2, and now this is the conversation between Stillmatic and King's Disease 2, and that the Lost Tapes is behind these two albums? Is that the convo?
I personally think the consistency of it all is better than Lost Tapes. I think it is.
Mike, we about to pull up the track list into the Lost Tapes and have to do
And
that
everybody
too.
on here agrees that EPMD2 is their least favorite song. Eminem's verse is
Yeah,
a
we agree
skipper.
with you
This
all.
must not be the
It's,
people that were with us earlier, because earlier we were,
did we
well,
get killed
not
earlier?
you. I was getting killed for criticizing Eminem's verse, but
No. You criticize Eminem all the time, and you come off as a hater. So like, you deserve a lot of that, but not
honestly,
all.
I think in our previous show earlier, I think I did a really good job of breaking down the verse
Oh, Mike,
without.
Mike. Mike, no. You did a good job, Mike. I'm telling you what, Mike. I forgot No Ideas Original is on the Lost Tapes, Mike. We about to have a problem. We about to line up King's Disease 2 against Stillmatic in the Lost Tapes. We
All right,
need to.
let's line it up against Stillmatic first, since we're talking
That's cool.
albums.
Okay. So we got the Stillmatic intro versus Pressure, right?
I think the Stillmatic intro takes that.
I'm gonna have to agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Actually, so we got Ether versus Death Row East.
Ether got to take that.
So, Mike, I was saying that this is what I mean about how Nas is classics. I told you about these first 10 songs, Mike. I told you about these first 10 songs on Stillmatic.
Let's go.
Yeah. Got Yourself a Gun or 40 Side?
40 Side.
I'm going to give you that, Mike, because you're going to need that. Smoking or EPMD 2?
EPMD 2 is better than Smoking. I'm sorry.
No, it's not,
I never
Mike.
liked
No,
Smoking. Never
no,
liked
it's not,
that record.
Mike. EPMD 2 is not better
I'll
than
give you
Smoking.
that.
No.
I'll give you that. Go ahead. You got that one, because EPMD 2 is the weakest record on here.
Mike, DMX's best album is called It's Dark and Hell is Hot. That's where this conversation might be going. Mike, You're the Man versus Rare.
You're the Man.
Rewind versus YKTV, Mike.
Rewind.
Mike, you see where this is going?
Let's keep going. It's 5-1.
Mike,
You're right.
One Mike versus Store Run. Mike, where
What's
we
that?
going?
Hold on. Go back.
One Mike versus Store Run.
I kind of like Store Run better.
It's not better than One Mike. Stop that.
I'm not mad at that. Go ahead.
You already know what time it is,
6-1.
Mike. Ooh, Mike, here's a valid conversation. Second Childhood or Nobody? If you
No.
told me Nobody,
What happened to Moments?
Huh?
What happened to Moments?
Oh, hold on. My bad. Yeah, Second Childhood or Moments.
Okay.
This is very comparable.
I got Moments.
I'll give you Moments. Destroy and Rebuild or Nobody?
Nobody.
Ooh, that's fascinating, but I'll give you that. Mike, The Flyest or No Phony Love? That's The Flyest.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's The Flyest.
Yeah.
Braveheart Party or Brunch on Sundays? That's obviously
Brunch on Sundays.
And then we go to My Country or Composure?
Composure.
Mike, What Goes Around Comes Around or My Bible? Mike, you already know.
What goes around
Already know it's Poison. Ecstasy Coke. And Mike, Nas is Good versus Every Ghetto. I'll give you Nas is Good over Every Ghetto.
Definitely.
So Mike, what's the tally again?
Stewart says Store Run
is.
Yeah, Stillmatic, from what we just tallied, Stillmatic wins that 8-6. R. Stewart says Store Run is better than One Mic. I'll tell you this, man. One Mic was incredible when it first came out.
Still lose.
Yeah. If that hold on. If that goes the other way, then it's a tie.
But it don't go the other way, Mike. Nobody in his really right mind thinks, Mike, One Mic is one of his scene-stealing performances. It's one of the rare times he was out of character at that point in his career. That was one of those comeback records. Y'all know what One Mic is. Stop fucking.
Honestly, man, One Mic was dope when it came out. I don't feel like that record aged well, but again, I'm not mad at that.
Like, it's like the Nas record says on the Lost Tape. Everybody's crazy.
But see, this is the thing. This is the thing, though. And back to my man Thompson's point. We talking about really a one-song difference, because if one song goes the other way, it's tied. But I think that this album just flows with no skips better than Stillmatic does.
That's what I'm saying. But Mike, if you pull it out and go song for song and they're comparable, you take the one that has the better songs. I didn't say it was by a lot. I'm saying Stillmatic has more home runs in this album. So here's the thing.
There's not a Braveheart Party on this album, and those things hurt you.
No, that they hurt you, Mike. We just lined the songs up, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, because if we're talking about, let's just talk about like.
Mike, I wanted to be clear. Some of these songs aren't close. Like the Stillmatic intro versus Pressure, as dope as Pressure is, that's not a conversation, Mike. Some of these records, it's not a conversation. and you know it.
Yeah, the
So
first
stop
couple ones.
acting like it's the same thing.
Do you
It's
want
not
to
like
do you want to do the lost tapes real quick?
yeah,
We got
Mike, let's
time for
do it
that?
because here was my original takeaway. My original takeaway is I thought I just heard his fourth or fifth best album. I don't know if it's better than the Lost Tapes. I think Stillmatic has more home runs. We just proved that. So let's see if it's better than the
So
Lost
all
Tapes.
right, this goes behind Stillmatic based on that, and again, I could see it going either way because of the flow. But
Mike, his 3, 4, 5 are all comparable at this point because the fact that we talking Lost Tapes, King's Disease 2, and like Stillmatic, it's comparable. I'm just telling you, I felt like this was more 4, 5 than 3, 4.
All right, you ready? We're
Right.
about to do Lost Tapes versus King's Disease 2. Let's do it. Go ahead.
Once again, Pressure versus Do-Rags. I think we know how that's
going.
going.
Yeah, that's Do-Rags. Okay.
Mike, My Way or Death Row East? I actually like Death Row East more.
Okay.
You Gotta Love It or 40 Side?
Gotta Love It?
I would say You Gotta Love It.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing Lasts Forever or EPMD 2?
Huh. Nothing Lasts Forever, lyrically.
Yep. Rare or No Ideas Original? I think we know how that goes, Mike. Blaze of 50 or YKTV, Mike? I think we know how that goes, Mike.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Everybody's Crazy or Store Run? That's Store Run. Purple or Moments? I'll give Moments that. Don't you think? I think Moments is probably
I got better Moments with that.
Yeah. Okay. So Nobody or Drunk by Myself. I'll take Nobody on that too.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I love Drunk by Myself, I think that's one of his more introspective records that doesn't get talked about. No Phony Love or Black Zombie. I think that's Black Zombie.
Black Zombie. Yeah.
Yeah. Brunch on Sundays or Papa Was a Player. Ooh, that's interesting.
That is interesting. I think Papa Was a Player.
Me too, but barely, because I really like Brunch on Sunday.
Me too.
And then we got Fetus or Count Me In.
Count Me In.
Okay, so where are we at right there? Because
we're at 5 to 7.
Who? Lost Tapes?
Yeah.
See, the problem with that is that Nas got 3 more tracks. That's why I felt like these were comparable. So
and you
it's
got
like
Composure and you got My Bible and got
you
and
can
like
put Composure because you can put Composure, My Bible, or Nas is good in somewhere and take some of these victories away. So I feel like this is an argument about this is his 4th or 5th best album. So Lost Tapes is an accurate comparison.
I think once again, I mean, Stewart says in here, he's like, King's Disease 2 is skip free. We can't say the same for Stillmatic. Chronological order is not the best way to compare albums. I understand that,
Mike,
and I feel
Mike,
that.
Mike, there are better songs on Stillmatic than there are on King's Disease 2. There are. That's what I'm saying. It's not like he just won some of these. It's like, no, that Stillmatic intro is pretty epic. One Mic and Rewind, You're the Man, The Flyest. Mike, those ain't like little records. Those are epic. These are really dope records. Mike, these are really dope records with some home runs. Stillmatic was home runs with some dope records.
I think that's a rating conversation where it's like, okay, when you're rating an album, are we sitting here like, I mean, you've rated albums. You've done reviews for According to Hip Hop. I know Lex P has as well, so you can go ahead and chime in as well. And I want to hear what Mark has to say about this. But in the rating process, do you take off for very bad records or do you give pluses for consistency? And I think that's the conversation that we have when it comes to Nas's records.
So you want to know what? So, I mean, first of all, when you talk consistency, this is what I mean. Like, those records on It Was Written that people didn't love, I'm like, well, those records aren't as bad as y'all are saying that they are. And I think time has kind of proved me to be right with that. Like, with Stillmatic, the only real problem with Stillmatic, like when you go through the songs that I just named.
Hold on, you froze for a minute, man. I want you to be shown on here. Hang up and hit me right back and, see if that fixes the problem.
Right, I got you.
All right, cool. I'm going to see what they're saying. In the meantime, let's see. We're going to get Coop back in here, but there it is. That didn't take long. All right, yeah, you back, you moving. But what are you saying though?
No, Mike. So Mike, when we're talking about Stillmatic, and here's what I mean, I don't think people understand how understated it is as a classic. Braveheart Party is such a misstep. I think people forget that every other song on here is quality except for Braveheart Party, and there is some of his best shit on here. That's different. So you're so what you're telling me is that King's Disease 2 may flow better from beginning to end. Is like there's no Braveheart party, but Mike, there's no ether on King's Disease 2. There's no Stillmatic intro. There's
That's
no
fair.
rewind. There's no one mic. There's definitely no what goes around. He don't rhyme like that no more. So what I'm saying is that Stillmatic has more classic components and classic records than King's Disease 2, Mike, and that's gonna hold because that's just a fact. He's not doing rewind again.
Well,
that Blood of a Slave, Heart of a King, Stillmatic intro, he's not doing that again.
Lex P seems to agree with you. He said home run power over consistency. I guess that's the Barry Bonds argument against Tony
Mike,
Gwynn,
some
right?
of that shit is going on his greatest hits on Stillmatic. If he's the GOAT and something off this album is going on the great, like Mike, when we look at Stillmatic, Ether's going on his greatest hits, probably, Mike.
Well, Andre Shashir has a good question, and we haven't covered this. What are y'all rating King's Disease 2? What are you rating King's Disease 2 out of a 5?
Mike, I heard a record with no flaws, and I wrote 5 down.
You wrote 5 down? But after you said no home runs, come on now. We can't do that.
No. I didn't say that. I said this is an album with good songs and some home runs.
Okay. But you acknowledge that they're not his best home run.
The only thing literally that's wrong with this project is EPMD 2. Am I wrong?
I mean, I think
Am I wrong?
That record, let me get back to the track list for everybody on here. I want to really look at this.
Go pull it up. That's what I'm saying.
I think EPMD 2 is, I don't even think it's a misstep, right? I do think that there are some okay songs on here.
Because the rest of the album is so great and it feels out of pocket and out of groove. But Mike, outside of that, that's what I'm saying, Mike. How can the blueprint be what it is with that nigga Jigga and Hola Ho Vito on there, but this album not get the same type of consideration?
You know what, to be perfectly honest, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. And I know that the Source magazine really kind of convolutes our mind in theory and how we think of perfect efforts. I think that, like you said, there's levels to classics, right? The Blueprint is not a perfect album. And I think that when I view 5 mics or perfect scores, I'm thinking like, I'm thinking perfect album. I'm thinking Supreme Clientele. I'm thinking Aquemini. You know what I'm saying? Or super levels. Like a 2001.
You're thinking of that top tier classic. Yeah, you're thinking of that top tier classic. You're thinking of B. You're thinking of
And you know, and as much as I think this is a very, very, very dope album from Nas, I think it's album of the year so far. Based on what I know Nas can do, I can't say this is a perfect album. I can't say that.
So Mike, here and so here's what all the people that are calling it classic and even saying some people saying apparently it's the second best album are going to quibble with you about. Well, what's the problem with this album outside of EPMD 2?
Well, the problem, you stated this earlier. I don't think that the home runs are all-time Nas greatest hits level. I don't.
But here's what I would quibble with you about. Because he's the greatest of all time, Mike, and because of the stuff that are on the 4 classics that came before it, it's gonna be hard. I told you, Mike. Yeah. Once he made Godson, Mike, and he made Get Down and Made You Look, it was going to be tough for anything to crack the greatest hits list after that because that pretty much filled it out at that point, Mike.
Well, it is what it is, and you know you get.
And so what I'm saying is that we shouldn't knock him for not having something that maybe belongs on his greatest hits list when he's probably the greatest MC of all time. There's a lot of stuff to parse through, Mike, and his best stuff is the best stuff we've ever heard from an MC. And so we have to have that understanding when we're rating him. And that's why I keep on saying part of what's so impressive
some of the best stuff.
Like Mike, he's changing the conversation with this album is what I'm trying to say.
No, that's great. It's transformative
because
it's transformative in that way.
He changed shit when he was 19. He changes shit again. We got to start looking at it differently because it's going to be hard to rate this album because it's like it's this old ass dude making this album that really only has one misstep. And we have so many other albums that we call classic, Mike, that have obvious more missteps than this album. You feel me?
I mean, again, I think there are levels to classic, and I don't think that this is out of the realm of being called a classic. AJ says that it's a 3.5, and he says not album of the year over Tyler, Vince,
Okay.
Cole, or Isaiah Rashad.
He said it was a 3.5. We're going to have a whole conversation with him in the comment section tomorrow.
Yeah. You froze again, man. I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's something on my side. Hopefully you'll come back. But yeah, man. I don't know, man. I think the catch 22 with what you just said is yes, his levels are high, but with that being said, his levels are high, right? So it's hard to sit there and take an album that didn't have his highest levels and say that it was a perfect classic effort. Now, if we want to say this album is a classic effort based on the time that he has done it in his career and him basically being transformative in the mature hip hop MC space and bridging that gap between a younger producer and a veteran MC, making a very dope effort in the time space they did, I'm with that. Because I think that the Blueprint is probably one of those classics because of what it changed sonically and its timing and place and when that happened too. Not because it's perfect. You know what I mean?
Mike, do you understand how epic of a song that Nas would have to make to crack even his top 20, like his own top 20?
I understand.
So, Mike, that's unreasonable, Mike. His heights are the highest of heights. Like when you talk about his highest of heights, you got to start pulling out Biggie's best shit, Jay's best shit, Rakim's best shit. No, he's not about to make nothing that's cracking his best hits at 48, but he's the greatest MC of all time. He can still make a classic album without cracking it, and that doesn't mean there aren't classic songs on this album. Can we talk about the fact that some of these songs feel classic to me? That's what I mean. It's like when I hear Death Row East, Store Run, Moments, Nobody, Brunch on Sundays, My Bible, I'm like, nah, I could see that going down classic like.
Whoa, hold on. Let me get Coop back. So y'all think it's a classic in there?
Yeah.
You there? And you said no Brunch on Sundays. You think that those songs can go down as classics?
Yes, Mike, those songs are great. Tell me those songs aren't great. Tell me Store Run wasn't great when you heard it. Tell me Nobody wasn't great when you heard it.
This is what I would give you.
And Tell me that intro wasn't great. Tell me you didn't love hearing the Pac story and the Stretch thing on Death Row East. Yeah, that's classic shit. It's just not, AJ, Mike, you know what it's not? It's not the setup. It's not Silent Murder. It's not The World Is Yours. It's not Your State of Mind. It's not Nas's Life.
I think AJ is about to. I think AJ is.
Hits like this.
Hold on. I think AJ is about to address something that I wanted to address. He said it sounds fresh and he's in his bag, but we can't judge greatness of this album off his past. I do agree with that as well, and I do think that when we close the book on Nasir Jones and say 10 years, 15 years from now, we're going to look back at this effort and we're probably going to look at some of these songs very different in a very high light. We're going to be like, yo, this is at the level of this. And us being able to talk about these songs to this level after 24 hours of hearing them or just hearing them under 24 hours, that says a lot about this album. And I'm okay with preliminarily calling it a classic because I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility, especially how quality this is. And like I said, how transformative this can be with younger producers hooking up with seasoned veterans and actually being able to develop a level of chemistry and keep, making consistent music from two different generations. So that right there alone, we haven't seen in hip hop. Have we seen that?
That's what I mean. He's changing the conversation.
Yeah.
He's almost making the conversation like you got to break his career in half, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Like you got to break, like it's almost like you got to stop his career at Godson, and then you got to go in the bag about the second part of his career.
This is some Marvin Gaye shit, right? Where it's like,
no, Mike, this is like some, I don't know, like this is some Rolling Stone shit, Mike, actually. Where it's like where somebody actually becomes like totally viable again. I don't know what artist in any genre, Mike, has released some of their best work 20 years after some of their best shit's been released. I'm trying to
You
think
know
about
what?
I don't think people understand what's happening. He changing the conversation.
I would say one artist that comes to mind, this might be off the cuff, but I've always given her praise for this. When Madonna dropped Confessions of the Dance Floor in 2005, I was super impressed by that because at that point in her career,
her run with like music and Confession. You're right. That was the Mike. But here's what I'm saying though, is that like she wasn't 20 years removed from Bedtime Stories though. She was like 10, 12 years removed.
Well, I'm talking about Confessions of the Dance Floor. That was 05, and she dropped like a virgin in like what, 82? 82, but you know.
No, 90, but no, I'm talking, no, Mike. What I'm saying is that think about this. If God's Son.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. I know.
Right. God's Son came out in 2002. This is 2021. His last, like, truly great shit in a lot of people's mind was God's Son.
Yeah.
19 years later, Madonna had like a 10, 12-year gap between her great shit, but nobody ain't never had no 2-decade gap between some truly magnificent shit like this in the history of music that I know of.
Andre Shashir says, I don't understand him putting Eminem on there, talking about EPMD. He could have just kept it with EPMD. You know what? We were talking about it offline. It's like, I wonder how Redman feels. Like, Redman should have kind of had that spot. You know, you got a Def Squad or Hit Squad collaboration possibility right there. And I could have definitely heard Redman on there.
I said Cool G Rap because I was thinking Queens and I was thinking about M's Rapid Fire Delivery, which is the same thing that
Right. Stylistically, actually, you know, stylistically.
Yeah, stylistically it'd be a nice fit in, but Redman as well.
I would have loved to have also heard EPMD be able to get a little bit more bars. You know what I'm saying?
I would have liked to have heard Nas and Redman on the track more than Nas and M. I've heard Nas and Cool G Rap. We know those results, Mike. Results call fast. Like, you go look up that hip hop classic if you're not aware.
Definitely. We've never heard Nas and Redman on a record together. We've heard Method Man and Nas on the Belly joint, but yeah, I think this would have been the perfect opportunity for Redman to close out the record.
Method Man was supposed to do the hook, the shootouts, Mike.
I forgot about that. That's true. R. Stewart says, I said Redman on your live stream on Facebook earlier. We missed that. You hit that nail on the head, man. Even Keith Murray, man, I would have liked to have seen both of them on it because M did 24 bars. It could have got 2 more verses in there.
You want to know what would have been nice, actually, when you think about it? Like, it would have been nice if it... You want to know what? How about we all write? It should have been maybe like Def Squad and Queens. Like, Nas should have got G-Rap, Redman, and Keith Murray and EPMD, and they just should have, like, you know...
Yeah, I could have heard them on that. That would have been some dope shit.
Like, damn the 24 bar loops. Everybody got 12 bars. Let's go.
Yeah, man, that would have been some dope shit. And I know people want to think that I'm probably shitting on Eminem again, but, you know...
No, you're doing that too, but it's valid. No, it's valid because on an album that I think is going to go down as classic, it's by far the weakest song, Mike.
And it's only weak because of, you know, it
so Mike, so listen to what we're saying. If this is by far the weakest song, the only thing that's weak about the song is a questionable performance by the guest artist. Don't that sound like classic shit? Ain't that the thing classics are made of? When you arguing about the best song, when you can play the album from beginning to end, when there's classic shit on there, Mike, don't tell me nobody in store run's not classic shit.
K. Thompson said what you said earlier. K. Thompson said what you said earlier. He said, I would have wanted Black Thought. And you know, imagine Black, because that changes the whole conversation, right? If we have Black Thought closing out that song instead of Eminem, we're not saying that's the weakest song on the album anymore. You know what I mean?
No.
And so with that being said, you know, I don't want to get on that soapbox, but how great is this motherfucker, really?
So, Mike, once again, like we were talking about earlier briefly, and people can go check our YouTube page and go see, you know, our earlier show from this morning when we did one of our shorts. But, you know, long story short, Mike, when you look at it, we just maybe need to place him more properly. The same way J. Cole may need to be placed more properly. And that's not to say that he's not great. That's not what I'm trying to say.
And, you know, when we talk about J. Cole, I mean, there's a direct reflection of who the standard is, right? People say Cole and Kendrick. They're not on the same level. And I know people always make them synonymous with each other because I guess that's how they've been branded or marketed. But if we're talking about the work and the output, album for album, they're not on the same level. People need to revisit where they put Cole in this conversation because him and Kendrick are not on the same level. Cole's
So
best effort.
I'm gonna say this again too. So when you're listening to Eminem, understand you're listening to somebody that came in the game like 6, 7 years after Nas, hasn't made the classics that Nas made, hasn't stayed as relevant, hasn't been as good late, and is considered to be in the same stratosphere with him. And that's what I mean. Like, no, Nas is different, man.
Oh, definitely. R. Stewart 1000 says Eminem is top 30 all time. I think that's reasonable. I think that's a reasonable place to put him.
Mike, didn't I say back end of the top 25? And I wasn't even sure about that because Kane and G-Rap at the back end of my top 25, but might be having to move Kane up, and we're going to talk about that shortly.
K. Thompson says M's the greatest at putting words together. It's a word salad thing.
No, that's the thing. He's not better than Cool G-Rap at that necessarily. Y'all just don't listen to Cool G-Rap.
Is he better than Black Thought at that? Is he better than Black Thought at that? If we're just taking everything out of a vacuum, we're not talking about music.
I mean, Mike, like Lupe is somebody that's special with putting words together too. That's his specialty, actually. Lupe's specialty is actually that, like, Mike.
Stop the tape. I think that you're right, because we talk about what Eminem just did with that whole reindeer bucks bullshit he did in that line. That doesn't trump Lupe saying, yeah, you say I'm good at martial art. I'm a good martial artist. You should know because you're a martial. What did he say? He was like, you're nothing but a martial artist.
No,
we talk about placing words together. M doesn't touch Lupe. Let's just be clear.
This is what I mean when I say I'm somewhere in the middle. I don't think he's as far down as maybe you would have him, but I don't have him as high up as everybody else either. I'm somewhere in the middle. So when people are like, oh, he's the best wordsmith at flipping words, I'm like, nah. Like, first of all, give me Cool G-Rap. And I'm gonna keep on saying that. But then after that, Mike, like Thought, Lupe, there are other guys that are words.
And honestly, man, what we've heard people like Mickey Fax even do with words. What he did on that Sway freestyle, what he did on that A minus song. Like, it's hard to say that we've heard.
Tech Nine, who you brought up earlier.
Yeah, putting words together. He doesn't beat Lupe in that category.
Mike. Somebody from my hip hop and sports group that I'm a part of, shout out to the homie Kendra and Sharon.
Mm-hmm.
Like, one of the homies was talking about Pharoah Monch like a little bit before I jumped on the show, and I seen that. You know what I'm saying? He was talking about Pharoah Monch versus him. He's like, everybody talk this shit about M. Like, what up with Pharaoh? Like, he right too. So listen, it's like, man, stop thinking that M occupies that slot like arbitrarily. And I keep on bringing up G-Rap, Mike, because G-Rap was the first guy who I really heard do it first. So he's the guy who blows my mind when I hear it, because when I'm like, how can this dude talk this street shit and like rap like that?
Listen, man, you heard Kane put words together too.
Like
I don't think control is phenomenal.
Once again, it's Big G running the number records, millionaire brackets, fast loop tactics. I'm willing up in the millionaires bracket. The boss of all, like, Cool G Rap is crazy.
You know who's one of the best at putting words together too? And I think that, he doesn't have the catalog to speak, but Big Pun was amazing.
Mike Dream Shatterer, Mike.
Nigga. Ooh. That in the middle of little illity diddle, did he know that he riddled the middle man who didn't do diddly? I mean, that's not normal stuff.
No, Mike, the whole Dream Shatterer, Mike, like the whole Dream Shatterer, super lyrical with Black Thought, Mike.
Yeah, super lyrical with Black Thought. I was gonna say that first verse on Twins too, where he was like, I rub your face off the earth and curse your family's children like Amityville and drill the nerves in your cavity, feeling insanity's building the pavilion and my civilian. And can it be the energy that humanity's building? I mean,
hey, Mike, my cousin's whole style was based off that verse you just spit. That's how my cousin used to rap, because he was like so in fun.
So I'm not willing to give him that best putting words together either.
Like, he's not the only dude that occupies that space, and there are other guys that fill that space with content.
Mm-hmm.
It's more hip hop based. Let's just call it more hip hop based. Is that a good way of framing it?
That's what it is, man. And I appreciate that. And again, I don't want to come across as a hater, but it's just I'm just trying to be fair.
No, it's too late for you not to come off as a hater, Mike. I want to let you know that it's too late.
So I'm Skip Bayless to his LeBron James, huh?
No, I be coming off as a hater sometimes about some shit. I'm sure. Like all the Jay fans think I be hating on Jay because I think Nas is the GOAT. It's just I got proof. I got more proof today.
I mean, the fact that you sitting here trying to act like Lost Tapes is better than Volume 2, that's some hater shit.
Mike, it really is. You want to do Lost Tapes versus Volume 2 right quick? I bet you.
I would love to do that. I would love to do that. But
Mike, Money Cash Hoes ain't better than Blaze of 50. That's track number 6 on both the albums. That's what I'm saying. You don't want to do it, Mike. You don't want to do it.
That's just one, and that's debatable.
Mike, the intro is going up against Do-Rags. Like it's over. I already gave you 2 tracks, and like you about to lose. You about to lose the Primo beat. You about to lose Money Cash Hoes. You want to keep going? You're gonna keep losing too.
Sure. I mean, we can do that on another date. I know we're heading over our time, but
no, we're not going over time. People love this shit, Mike. People love this shit. Mike, you gotta love it. It's track number 3. What's track number 3? On Volume 2?
Are we really doing this right now? Come on, man.
All my niggas gonna ride line. No, you better stop playing. Bring Volume 2 over here against the Lost Tapes. Watch what happens.
Let's do this.
No Ideas original versus Nigga What, Nigga Who. Mike, what you talking?
Nigga What, Nigga Who's got that? Come on, man. These niche records, man.
Mike,
come on,
said, what's the better protection, God or guns? Can't decide. That's a hard one, Jay.
You're talking about the lyricist. We're talking about the song.
Yeah.
You know,
Nas, that's one of Nas's spaz out moments where he shows he's the GOAT. That's what I'm saying. That's what No Ideas original is.
Like I said, I'm gonna give you the fact that Nas is ahead right now because he just dropped a very groundbreaking record at this point in his career in 2021. I don't think that Jay is done. But for right now, I'll give it to you. Nas got the GOAT position right now. And that's saying a lot for me. I don't think I've said that about these two since 2001, to be perfectly honest.
Starting off strong with wheezing in the back.
It's true. And, unfortunately, Jay doesn't have a crew like State Property or any of these guys to piggyback off of and drop features on or anything like that anymore.
You mean he just got to go in the studio and create the way Nas has been doing his entire career? Oh,
yes, that's what he has to do now.
I feel so bad.
Unfortunately, yeah, that's what Jay is resorted to.
I feel bad, but I don't.
Maybe him and Beyonce can drop another album or something.
Next topic, Mike.
K. Thompson says, where y'all place KD2 out of all the close classic albums in the last 5 years? That's a good question. I was going to ask you something along the lines of that because I was going to ask you, where do you put this when it comes to Pray for Paris or Daytona? I got Pray for Paris. Pray for Paris is different, man. It just
Pray for Paris is different for me.
It's different.
So, Mike, today, what albums did I bring up? I bought up Pray for Paris, Daytona, and Alfredo that stood out.
What about Conway's album? What about From a King to a God?
So, Mike, after those albums, Mike, after that, I thought of From a King to a God and Victory Lap. I think King's Disease 2 is somewhere in that realm. Travis's Astro World 2 came to mind, too, if we're talking about the last 5 years.
Travis is different. That's a hard one to, put in the conversation. 2
From a King to a God. So the best 5 albums of the last 5 years to me, like how about this? Post Kendrick making Damn. Because to me, that seems to be like some sort of cutoff for hip-hop changing a little bit.
Yeah, it is.
So since Kendrick made Damn, for me, the 5 best rap albums that I've heard till today were Pray for Paris, Daytona, Alfredo, From a King to a God, and Astro World 2 and Victory Lap. I'm sorry, 6.
I like that lineup.
Those would be the 6. I would put King's Disease 2 right in there. So it's definitely in the top 10 of the last 5 years where it ranks between all these albums. I would have to wait and see. Like, there's no stargazing on King's Disease 2. Like, that's all-time classic. I don't even think there's a If You Know on here. I don't think
AJ said Igor or Call Me If You Get Lost. What do you think about that being in the conversation?
See, that's what I mean. Those are classics. Those are albums to me that are like almost classic. Like, I don't think Igor is almost classic. I think Igor is great. I think Call Me If You Get Lost could go down like a classic.
I'm
Like I
gonna
said,
go
I
and
wouldn't be
listen to
surprised if
"Call
it
Me If You
does.
Get Lost" tomorrow, back to back with this, because I do think
How
those
about
are the
this?
two
How about
strongest.
this? The Call Me If You Get Lost and the Isaiah Rashad deserve some mention in here in these albums that I just mentioned because I've been super impressed with those projects like that.
We need to do another album of the year conversation because, speaking of Pray for Paris, Fly Guy's about to drop a double album. I think next week, is it?
Yeah, hey, Mike.
I
Our
mean,
2021 yearbook is starting to round out wonderfully because of this past month of hip hop music.
it really
Like,
is.
it's time for us to start going to work about putting together the 2021 yearbook
And
now.
honestly, with Kanye's antics, I don't know if he's ever going to drop the album, but it's material for the yearbook, honestly. But at the end of the day,
And
but
I got live footage, Mike. I was even shooting you live footage last night, and I wasn't even there. Shout out to the homie Sherm.
yeah, definitely. That Vince Staples album deserves some mention too. That's what AJ says, and I agree with that. Vince
Yeah, we
Staples
did a whole
album,
list. Pray for Haiti deserves some mention.
yeah,
Lloyd Banks album. Like,
definitely.
no, we got work to do. Like I said, Mike, this is shaping up. I think this is probably the first classic album this year. We got 3 last year. We didn't get any in 2019. We got what I feel like was 3 in 2018, and I just named them.
I think that, all right, listen, I'm gonna say I think that KD2 is brilliant. I don't think it's
It's
better than
definitely
From a King to
brilliant.
a God. I don't think it's better than From a King to a God for me. So, but if I want to give them the same rating, I'm fine with that.
So here's what I would tell you, and here's why I brought up From a King to a God after it. And I never thought I would say this about a Nas project. Let me tell you, Conway is From a King to a God is a better lyrical performance than King's Disease 2. But I don't know if it's the song to song, play by play that King's Disease 2 is.
I think it is.
More,
And
it's,
especially if we
Mike,
factor in the extended version. Let's factor in the extended version.
Mike, that's really not fair. That's like factoring in Silent Murder into It Was Written.
We did that. We did. You did that.
Hold on, Mike. If we did that, hold on, Mike. So hold on.
You did that. What are you talking about?
You think the blueprint is better than It Was Written with Silent Murder included?
Yeah, I do. I do. You don't know it's better than Silent Murder.
Mike, that's Jay's best song, probably. That's the top 3.
And I think that's one of Nas's best songs. So,
No,
I mean,
that's not a top 3 Nas song. That's a top 3 Nas song for you. That's what I keep trying to tell you about Silent Murder. Silent Murder is like a top 10, 15 Nas song, not a top 3 Nas song.
I feel you.
Because you don't know it's not better than New York State of Mind.
Okay, hold on. Do you think Heart of the City is not better than Silent Murder? Because Heart of the City is better than Silent Murder. It is.
Yeah, Mike.
It is.
No.
Heart of the City is better than Silent Murder.
Better than Silent Murder. It's sort of like the conclusion, The Color Purple. Niggas is losing. Confusion when one time on pursue movements. Rapping niggas up in this movement to move shit. Cops versus the block.
Shorties get school quick.
Lesson number one if you arrested and hung. Where niggas is from, gotta keep your lid on your tongue. It's like Silent Murder. I hit blunts hard like Ray Mercer.
The vile words of the prince of the palace of Persia.
The palace of Persia, the cognac splurger. Plus, no, Mike, no.
It's my favorite Nas song.
It's not better than that, Mike. Mike, the first verse on Silent Murder is better than the entire song of Heart of the City. What are we talking
They are clowning me in the chat right now.
They should be clowning you. Listen to what you just said. That's ridiculous, Mike. Heart of the City versus Silent Murder. That's Mike. That's not a silent murder, Mike. That's a public 187.
Okay. All right. Let me check myself.
If we're talking about silent murder. If we're talking about silent
I
murder,
don't know, man. I'm still not totally convinced. I think that Heart of the City is one of Jay's strongest songs. Nigga, respect the game. That should be it. What you eat don't make me shit. Where's the love, man?
Not murder though, Mike. I inject the weak. What do you say? I dilute the weak and inject the right composite. We plotting on murderous schemes. It seems I've been called by the
essence of Queens. I love that record. You know how. And see, the fact that you're sitting here mentioning that record, you know how much I love Silent Murder. It's my favorite Nas song.
What are we talking about?
Yo, AJ must have read your review. AJ said, I'm surprised Coop didn't mention Rick Ross's Port of Miami too. You were high on that record when it came out.
I was, because I felt like it was a well-crafted album, but I also will tell you I'm not always right. That album review and the Nasir album review, I probably feel were my personal biggest missteps as an album reviewer. So like that happens too. So I feel like I probably gave that a 4 when it probably deserved more of a 3.5. And I'll owe up to it. Like when I'm not right about something, I'll say so. The Nasir review I rated too high. Port of Miami 2 I rated too high.
That
I owe
makes
up to
you know
I
the
stand by.
reviewing process is a very difficult thing, and you really don't understand how difficult it is until you have to do it. And it's like, okay, we used to knock the Source magazine for giving doggy style 4 mics, or giving Reasonable Doubt 4 mics, but you just don't know.
So, Mike, my
You just
hesitancy
don't
about
know.
giving this album a 5 was EPMD, and then I started thinking to myself, well, why am I being hesitant when I know so many albums have been given like perfect ratings without like perfect like it's. I feel like you sometimes. It's like, no, I'm not expecting this shit to be a Quemini, but actually, Mike, when I think about it, it's kind of an extended player of good songs like Quemini. It's not to the greatness of a Quemini, but it plays beginning to end kind of like that, and there are classic albums like that. So here's what I'm saying when I say that. Do you? Here's an album. How about this, Mike? Do you think either Illadelph Half-Life or Do You Want More is a hip-hop classic?
I don't. I honestly think that
Neither?
one
Neither,
day,
Mike?
huh?
Not Illadelph or Do You Want More?
Illadelph is the closer one. I think
To me,
Illadelph is closer. I think that Things Fall Apart. I would lean more towards Things Fall Apart.
see, I think Illadelph is the better player from beginning to end, but when Things Fall Apart has more of the highlight moments.
It does.
And
Illadelph is
so,
one of those where it's like, it sounds like 1996. I don't know how well it
no,
aged.
so
It's an
this is what I mean
underground
about
classic. I
Illadelph,
feel
though.
that. Lex
So
P
no.
says it's an
So this is what I
underground
mean
classic.
about Illadelph. Illadelph to me has always been one of those classics nobody ever talks about because it doesn't have like home run classic shit. It just has classic shit on there, and it's a steady player. I can see King's Disease 2 playing like that.
AJ says we might be calling this a classic because we're excited. Nas is making good music, 30 years in the game. I feel that, and I want to try to stay away from that. Kay Thompson says, so starting from 2020, in this decade, can we say that Nas is the king of New York? well, yeah, I guess,
That's what I'm saying. So when fans
Who else we got?
we're
Jada?
prisoner of the moment. It's like, no, man, we're not being prisoner of the moment. We're looking at the 4 albums in the last 4 years, and the fact that 3 of those 4 albums have been dope, and one album that wasn't was a Lost Tapes album of throwaway tracks from, quite frankly, an inconsistent recording period.
And let's keep it real. I think that Lost Tapes was to get him out of his Def Jam contract.
Absolutely contractual obligation.
Yeah, I think that Lost Tapes 2 dropped to get him out of Def Jam. That was the last contractual obligation he had with them.
If we're actually talking like full and solo album release of new Nas material, I mean, the last 3 albums, he's 3 for 3. We're not being prisoner of the moment. He's been doing this shit for about 3-4 years now.
And I think it's impressive. I think it's top 5 and climbing, right? I think that we can say that it's on the heels of Lost Tapes and possibly Stillmatic. We're just going to have to let time fester that part of it. But I think in the moment, it's above Godson.
So, Mike, is
that fair?
To me. So if we can be honest, so I'm going to tell you what I wrote next to 5. I said if we want to hold ourselves to a higher standard and do different from the source, we need to give this a 4.75 and wait.
I'm with 4.75.
And just eat the food if it turns out to be a 5. And so I'm more comfortable calling it a 4.75, but nothing less than that.
I'm fine with that. Because again, you're dealing with the sequel curse, and you're dealing with, again, last week I wasn't a big fan of him and Hit Boy hooking up. And Hit Boy just changed the game. Hit Boy's producer of the year so far. It's between Hit Boy and Tyler the Creator. I'm giving Hit Boy the nod at the moment because he's been able to do what not many have ever been able to do, and that's actually produce Nas for one full effort. And we ain't talking about a couple of beats here and there.
So hold on. So let's go up to last year right quick. So
right.
Part of the reason for the consideration for the 5 was that King's Disease got a 4.5, and I feel rightfully so. And when I went back and looked at the records, I was like, no, these records are good. They're just not as good as the records on King's Disease 2. And that's where some of the 5 consideration came from, too. I'm looking at the project he just released the year before and how much better this project sounds from what, Mike.
Does that change your score for the first King's Disease?
No, Mike, that's what I'm saying. I went back today and it's like, no, I'm going to hold that because the missteps are very minimal on that album. And I felt like most of the missteps were on the production side. Like, that's what I mean. The records are there.
I think he's lyrically better on this one, too. And I think that he's
better
lyrically...
He's more comfortable with Hit Boy, but like, that's what I'm saying. I went and listened to 10 Points today, and I listened to The Cure, and I listened to Blue Bands, I listened to 27 Summer Spicy. I'm like, no, he rhyming on here, too. It's just not at the level. And part of me, while I was thinking the 5, was like, man, like, he really done leveled up from what he just did. It was just a level up. You know, like, he done leveled up twice.
Well, the elephant in the room has just came in the room via AJ, the big fella. He says that's until Kendrick drops this year. You think Kendrick's still dropping this year? You think that's going to happen?
Look at what Nas is doing. Just look at what Nas is doing. That's
Kendrick
what I'm saying.
Nas has dropped 4 albums since Kendrick's last album.
That's all I got to say to that.
Whoa.
That's all I got to say to that.
At this point in his career, Kendrick's in his prime.
Somebody that is known for being a recluse, for not releasing projects in a fastidious manner, has released 4 full-length projects since Kendrick released his last album. And this is one of the few guys walking around with more classics than Kendrick. And he added what I feel like is probably another one to his belt today. Yeah, Kendrick need to drop. This is what I'm talking about. Like, what we talking about? We better not start talking about practice again. It's like, are you practicing? Are you in the gym shooting? Better be in the gym shooting. Hope you're going to practice.
Day by day, Kendrick is making it.
This nigga Nas been in a conversation with Jay and Pac and Big his whole career. He's still out here practicing. That's what I'm talking about.
You know, Kendrick's making it tougher and tougher on himself when, you know, efforts like this come out from veterans. New guys come in. You got guys like, you know, Griselda that are on a roll. You know, you got somebody like Benny that's on the roll, Conway that's on the roll. And the game has changed. And not to mention Pusha T's dropping this year, too. Since we're talking about people who are dropping this year. And Pusha has made it very clear that he feels like he has album of the year. And whether he does or doesn't, Kendrick still has to deliver. And not only is he chasing his own catalog, but the game has changed. The playing field has just changed, period. Mark asked, do you guys think King's Disease 2 is better than King's Disease 1? Yes, most definitely.
That's what I'm saying. He upped the ante. It's not even a conversation. When you line them up, it's not a conversation.
Yeah, not even a conversation. I know we're getting long-winded. We're like almost 2 hours in, bro. Is there anything you want to close with?
We got to get to the show right quick, but here's also something that, like, man, that nigga Nas, man. Like, that nigga Nas is crazy. Like, he's owning it right now. Like, I mean, think about really what he's doing. Like, really think about what he's doing right now.
Well, I wanted to give you your time to really flex, man, because I know you a Nas guy. And, yeah, I'm going to give it to you, man. Nas is number 1. And until Jay drops something that's comparable or at that level or better, I don't think it's a conversation right now. Nas has been reinvigorated. I don't know if he moved to Phoenix, Arizona or something, but he got a fountain of youth going on, and him and Hit Boy are on a roll. I think they could do it again, to be perfectly honest. So
here's what I was saying about From a King to a God. Part of what makes From a King to a God a classic isn't that from song to song, every song is stellar. It's that when the song is stellar, oh, it's stellar. Like, don't tell me that track with DJ Loaf is like stellar. It's just a dope record. But Juvenile Hell is stellar. Lemon is stellar. Jesus Christ is stellar.
Stellar. I don't like, you know what I don't like, and we'll say this before we get out of here.
Stellar. Not every record is stellar. It's not an Aquemini type of classic. There are some classics that give you a consistently good player with some good songs, but then they, like Mike, From a King to a God to me is very comparable to It Was Written in the sense that it's like damn near all the material on there is stellar lyrically, except for a song or two. And the home runs and the highlights on there are some of the best home runs and highlights that you're going to see.
And the extended version is crazy. And I don't like the fact that you ain't want to consider.
Look, much like dropping an extra verse on Street Dreams and Silent Murder.
Yeah, okay. Let's sit here and add Silent Murder, and let's add the Street Dream remix with R. Kelly and all that. I'm fine with that.
That's what I'm saying. It Was Written is like that kind of classic, like From a King to a God is. But there are other classics that just play from beginning to end really, really well. like an Philadelphia Half-Life, Mike, even like a B, even though this album's not B, and I'm not saying that, part of what makes B classic is that beginning to end player. There's no skip stuff on B.
The one song I don't like on B is a dope song, and that's
that's how you know an album is a classic, when you start talking personal preference. And so when I'm looking at this album, and it's like, I don't like Eminem because of what he did on those 8 to 12 bars on that Nas verse, but everything about this album is great outside of that. That sounds like classic shit.
But listen, like I said earlier, and I'll say this and we can get out of here, I still think that he did a really good job of fitting Eminem into this. If the mission was to let's get Eminem on this album and see what capacity we could put him in there, I think he did a good job doing that. Although I do think he should have, somebody else should have been in that place, but I get it.
So for him, and this is something that I realized strategically that he does about albums.
Mm-hmm.
Every album has to have a moment. Like Hip Hop is Dead's moment is Black Republican with Jay. Like he makes sure he has a moment every album. And so let me tell you what he did last time for King's Disease. He looked around and he said, what does my core circle of fans want that I can do to draw them back in? That's that firm shit.
It was. And, shout out to everybody in the room. We really appreciate y'all joining us. Lex P said this was one of the best episodes, Mike and Coop. AJ says, agreed with Lex. I'm glad I could finally make it to see the live stream. This is awesome. I'll be back next week. Yes, please spread the word. Y'all go ahead and subscribe. Thumbs up the video, all that. And for the people that are seeing it on Facebook the following day, make sure y'all subscribe. We'll definitely be here next week. I'm looking forward to Westside Gunn dropping a double album. Nigga, do you understand what's about to happen with Westside Gunn dropping a double album?
That's what I'm saying, Mike. We got to get to work on this yearbook. This shit is shaping up fast. Like we got to start getting stuff set off to the side. Like Mike, I on the low already started making a best songs list of the year.
Okay.
Based on what I heard so far. But Mike, look at how quick this past month just happened. Literally a month ago, Skyzoo had album of the year. He's probably at 4th or 5th right now.
I think Skyzoo was our first album of the year, right? When we did a little breakdown, I think the first definitive.
He was the first album that I felt like. How about this? He was the first album that I think we both heard and felt comfortable in saying this is the best rap album this year so far.
Right. So it was Skyzoo, and then Tyler dropped, and then Isaiah Rashad had us thinking okay, is it Isaiah Rashad or is it Tyler? And then this dropped. So
then the GOAT came, Mike.
But again, we still got Pusha T. He claims that he's dropping this year. Kanye's gonna drop whenever, and we still. What's up?
Whatever, Mike.
Yeah, whatever. Again, at this point with the Kanye shit, I'm like, I'll believe it when I hear it. I'll judge it when we hear it, and we'll just go from there. But when you build up things, it makes it harder for yourself.
Listen to me, Mike. If people are really watching this the way that we think that they're watching us, the way that we probably know that they're watching us, listen to me very carefully with what I'm about to say.
Go for it.
Do not let that man release a 24-track album. That is not about to go well.
I don't think he should, but it looks like it's going to be 24 tracks.
I'm going to say as calmly as I can again. Do not let that man release a 24-track album. It's not going to go well. Cut that shit down.
According to some sources, they're saying Watch the Throne 2 is coming out this year too. Whatever. I mean, we'll see.
I believe that.
We'll believe the stuff when we hear.
I believe that Kanye is coming out. When was that? Today? 2 weeks ago?
Did you hear real quick. Did you hear the Jay Electronica song that Kanye played yesterday? It was cool. I forgot about that. I don't even want to talk about this Kanye album until it drops because it's just so much out there. We don't know what's going to be on what. So.
On my Jay Electronica?
Yeah. Jay Elect Hanukkah. Jay Elect Yarmulke.
Okay. I'm talking about practice again.
We'll see y'all next week. I'm sure we're going to have a whole lot to talk about.
Mike, no. Real quick, before we go, do we got a second?
Yeah, go for it.
We got to shout the homie out from the show that we went to. So I need everybody to go follow the Bougie Brush.
Yeah.
On IG, that's with 2 E's, the Bougie Brush. The homie Sarah is an acrylic artist and painter, and we met her at the Rock M. Kane
Show the shirt again. Show the shirt again because you kind of paused out for a minute. Yeah, we met them at the Rock M. Kane show. Yeah. Microphone Fiend.
I was a fiend before I became a teen shirt, Mike. I came out the bathroom. I said, that's the shirt for me. I was a fiend before I became a teen, Mike. I melted microphones instead of cones of ice cream. Music orientated, so when hip hop was originated, fitted like pieces of puzzles.
Bro, all right, so the footage that I got at that show turned out really, really well. Y'all can go on YouTube to check that out too. But I
We still need
caught
to do a short
myself
about the show
singing
tomorrow
along
since we
to
just got
every.
Nas locked up.
You know what? I found myself rapping along to every single word of "I Ain't No Joke," and I know we were talking about Rakim the other day when we were talking about the Paid in Full anniversary. That nigga was spitting on "I Ain't No Joke," every fucking line.
So I want to say this right quick before we go. My homie Andrew and I have known each other for 25 years since we were 15 years old, and we're working on some things. But he was like, I was telling him, I was like, if you hadn't heard Rakim before and you put in Paid in Full, and the first record you heard on there was I Ain't No Joke, I was telling Andrew, I was like, nobody had ever rapped like that before
Ever.
or anything close to it. I said
Nothing
it
close to
changed
it.
everything instantly. I'm going to say this again. He's Homo erectus. That is when man got up and started walking.
Yeah.
The start of the MC walking starts with that album, with that record. That's what I'm saying. It's
You
like,
don't
no,
think
I
it
know.
starts with Eric B as president? I guess he took
No,
it to that next level.
Mike, because he's not spitting with the veracity and the velocity that he is. I Ain't No Joke. He's still kind of like, how about this, Mike? He still knows the scene, and he's a teenager on Eric B and President Is My Melody. He's slowing it down a little bit. On I Ain't No Joke, he went for his. Nobody went for theirs like that.
Nah.
I Ain't No Joke.
Yeah. AJ said we need to plug the Instagram too. Yeah, look for us at Instagram. According to number
Everywhere.
2
Instagram,
hip hop,
Twitter,
we're about to be at like 30,000 over there too. We appreciate all the love, and yes, we will holler at y'all next week.